Hey guys, you are watching your anime world. How are you all? Please support to subscribe this channel for watching new interesting stories. So in this video, we will see second part, what if Deku has the robot Quirk became the Ex Machina. Here is short summary. Deku is a robot, and Katsuki will prove it no matter the cost. Drabble series. No robots were harmed in the production of this work of fiction. But before we start, if you want more stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe and like this video. And if possible, share this video with your friends. Now let's start the story. Welcome to home economics class. Lunch Rush said. Before we get cooking, here's the school mascot. He said, a well-groomed pot-bellied pig on the kitchen counter. Christopher Pensorth Bacon. Isn't he adorable? Everyone cooed at the pig as oinked contentedly and scratched at its ear. Wait, Kaminari asked. I thought Nezu was the school mascot. A hole opened above Kaminari's head. A robotic arm yanked him through. I'll avenge you, Bakugo muttered under his breath. Anyways, Lunch Rush said, the first step to preparing your meal is selecting the right cut. Before anyone could blink, Lunch Rush slashed a butcher's cleaver through Christopher's gut. The pig squealed and most the students cried in terror as the cook hero pulled away a slab of its belly fat. First, we have the belly fat. Great in ramen dishes or fried as bacon. The cleaver carved out a chunk of Chris' hind leg. Kota whimpered and shivered in his seat. The hindquarters make a lovely ham once it's smoked. The cleaver carved out chunks along Chris' spine. Dark Shadow whimpered and hid itself in Tokiyami's cloak. Tenderloin towards the top, nice and tender when cooked low and slow. The cleaver sank lower and carved meat off the ribs. Bone gleamed in the kitchen light. Iida stoically took notes. Spare ribs. Excellent roasted on the grill, a bit gristly for other uses. Then last, we have the head. The cleaver went through the neck in one slice, slamming into the wooden counter with a solid thunk. Ochako bent over and vomited rainbows. Head cheese, of course. Siro, pale and woozy, unfurled some tape and shakily said, I think I can fix this. Just have to tape it back together. Tape? Nah. He'll be fine, watch. Christopher's flesh writhed and grew back out, even the head. Christopher smirked at the students. Regeneration Quirk. Doesn't even hurt him. He just likes being melodramatic. Right, who wants to try next? I need 30 belly cuts for ramen day. Kota fell out of his chair, unconscious. Lunch Rush sheepishly said, guess we overdid it this year. Anyone else? Izuku raised his hand. When he came forward, lasers from his eyes swept over Christopher. Cancer detected. Initiating surgical removal. Saw blades and scalpel sprouted from Izuku's body. Christopher's eyes went wide as Izuku carved him up like a pumpkin. Flesh grew back, and Izuku carved it off, faster and faster, his saw blades heating up all the while. Slices of bacon flew fully cooked, ground meat stuffed inside intestinal casing sizzled, and tenderloin steaks flopped onto plates. Piles of succulent meat surrounded every student once Izuku put away his blades and held up a pulsating mass. With a flash of plasma, he vaporized the tumor. Cancer neutralized. As Lunch Rush beat the loss of infinite bacon, Iida said, I see. It's a tumor with a pig quirk. Half the class dropped their food. Kirishima shrugged, asked, how's it any different from other bacon? And kept eating. Gah, the agony. Kaminari ed as he cradled an arm that bent in one too many places. Why do broken bones hurt so much? You appear to be dying of stage 5 leukemia, Izuku said. Beginning amputation. I'm fine, Kaminari shouted as the saw blades came out. Just a bruise, barely nothing. Then perhaps a smaller surgical procedure is in order. The giant blades were replaced with a smaller one. Oh look, there's Recovery Girl. Kaminari sprinted ahead, despite every step jostling the bone fragments in his arm. He flung the door to Recovery Girl's office open and shouted, please heal me, I'm begging you. He wants to amputate my. Kaminari cut off with a croak when he saw Recovery Girl. She lay face down on the ground, one arm outstretched towards an empty jar. Is she dead? Kaminari poked her with his foot. She didn't budge. Oh my god, she's dead. After a beat, Kaminari screamed, I'm screwed. Oh dear, Nezu said from behind him. Kaminari gave a squeak and bolted for cover. It wasn't me, I swear. Nezu held up the empty jar. Looks like she ran out again. Izuku, do me a favor and get Recovery Girl's emergency kit, would you? Izuku punched through the glass and took out a small Ziploc bag with a single black gummy bear inside. The moment Nezu popped it open, a shiver ran down Kaminari's spine. His hair rose, and sparks ran up and down his body. Whoa, what is that? Very dangerous, Nezu said. Just one of these is strong enough to kill 20 elephants. Really? Yep. When we tested these, the one we fed it to exploded, and the other 19 next to it died of shock. Nezu wrenched open Recovery Girl's jaw and shoved the gummy inside. The elderly woman's eyes snapped open. Her chest thumped and writhed as her heart bounced around her ribcage like a pinball. She arched over backwards until her head touched her feet, twisted and twitched in a violent and uncontrollable spasm. Recovery Girl went slack. She blinked her eyes, stretched, making loud popping noises with her spine, and yawned. Looking around, Recovery Girl sleepily said, "Dear me, did I fall asleep on the floor again?" Her eyes fell on Kaminari's mangled arm. "Here, let me fix that straight away." Recovery Girl kissed his forearm. As the bones wriggled back in place, Kaminari howled in pain. "Get the saws, Izuku. Get the saws. Now where did I put my..." As Recovery Girl looked around, Nezu handed her the jar, now refilled with a rainbow of gummies. "Right, here we go." She popped a gummy in Kaminari's mouth, and the screaming faded away as he chewed. Kaminari laughed giddily as Izuku escorted him out of the room. Once they were gone, Nezu said, "Remember to let me know next time you're running low, alright?" Recovery Girl absently popped a few gummies in her mouth and nodded. Vlad King, soaking wet, covered in grime from the bottom of Boston's harbor, and wincing every time the salmon stuck in his hair slapped him in the face, hefted an oaken chest, inexplicably clean and dry despite where it had sat for the past 400 years, onto Nezu's desk. "According to the manifest, that's the last chest," Sekijiro said. "Excellent. I can finally rectify the greatest crime against T ever committed." Nezu gave the chest a fond pat. "It's too bad that it all spoiled centuries ago." Trembling with the effort not to scream in rage, Vlad King asked, "Am I done? Have you learned your lesson?" With a sigh, Vlad King said, "I will rely on my own merits instead of UA's funds in my quest to prove my class better than Aizawa's." "Close enough. You may leave now." Nezu waited until Vlad King left. Scurrying across the room, Nezu slid 10 deadbolts into place over the door, pulled metal shutters over his windows, and hit a button to turn his office into a lead-lined bunker. Secure with his prize, Nezu reverently lifted the lid, scooped out the dried leaves, and gave them a delicate sniff. "At long last, I have found the greatest tea in the world. I've been saving a pot just for you." Passing 5 separate locks, 3 voice commands, and a retinal scan, Nezu retrieved a jade teapot from the Shah dynasty. Minutes later, he had the tea steeping and ready to drink. Pouring into a jade cup, a matching set with the pot, Nezu gave the tea a minute to cool as he basked in its fragrance. As Nezu raised the cup to his lips, a feather quill shot through the air and embedded itself in his desk. Out of the shadows, a robed and masked figure stepped out. "That tea was not meant for mortal lips." "The Freemasons," Nezu drawled. "I should have guessed. I suppose that the tea party was your doing." Another pair of Freemasons joined the first. The British had thought to use it to cement their hold on the new continent. "We could not allow that to happen. You have my gratitude for saving all the tea for me. I'll remember your sacrifice as I savor it." 4 more Freemasons loomed behind Nezu. "You have nowhere to run. Surrender the tea, and you shall not be harmed." Nezu chuckled. "I'm afraid you're mistaken. I'm not stuck in here with you." Claws extending, Nezu said, "You're stuck in here with me." In the early morning at UA High, a yellow sleeping bag hung from the ceiling in Class 1A. Beams of sunlight shone through the blinds and drilled straight through the sleeping bag to find Aizawa's eyes. The sleeping bag twisted and writhed, and after some tugging, Aizawa burst out of it. Aizawa noticed something amiss. The usual haze of coffee-induced insomnia was gone, replaced with perky awareness and the creeping sense of having made the wrong career choice years ago that Aizawa mentally shoved into a box along with all his other repressed trauma. With a glower, Aizawa emptied out his coffee thermos, no doubt drugged by Nezu again, and refilled it with piping hot coffee, fortified with enough caffeine to wake the dead. As Aizawa sipped his coffee, he stared out the window. In his pale reflection, he caught a glimmer of pink behind him. He turned, but all Aizawa saw was an empty classroom, no Mina-colored accessories in evidence. Aizawa turned back around. The pink hue was still there, practically at his back. He reached for his scarf, only to find it missing. Tensing for an impending battle, Aizawa reached for the nearest weapon he could find. On his desk, he had his fountain pen, sharpened to serve as an impromptu knife. Aizawa moved slowly, listening for any sign of movement as he palmed the makeshift weapon. Watching his reflection carefully, he rammed the pen through where the pink blur was lurking behind him. Pain flared through his back. Aizawa whirled and slashed the pen through the air. Blood coated its sharpened tip. He wounded his assailant, but they had vanished without a trace. He used his quirk, but nothing appeared. As Aizawa mentally reviewed the list of possible exit routes, another twinge of pain racked his back. He spun quickly and saw a flash of pink in his peripheral vision. Spinning madly, Aizawa followed the pink blur and stabbed at it, narrowly missing each time. Finally, his pen caught the edge, and another flash of pain hit him. Aizawa stopped, watched the trickle of blood drip down the pink surface. Felt another twinge from his back. Horror dawning on him, Aizawa rummaged through his desk until he found the mirror he used to check his eyes. Bright pink moth wings sprouted from his back. Aizawa frantically searched the room for clues. He saw the sleeping bag, ripped open, still hanging by the door. His capture scarf was woven through the material, which had formed a tight cocoon. He checked the clock. Class started in half an hour. If he could make it to Recovery Girl without. The moment he opened the door, he came face to face with his entire class. "Whoa, your wings are so pretty," Mina shouted. "Where'd you get them?" Aizawa ripped the wings off his back, soaked them in gasoline, and lit them on fire. Then he stormed towards Recovery Girl's office, leaving a trail of blood behind him. "All right class, pay attention," Aizawa said. "Today, I'll show you basic techniques to disarm your opponent. For now, you're not allowed to use your quirks. Ojiro, care to demonstrate for the class?" Aizawa made a half-hearted jab with a blunted knife. Ojiro caught his wrist and wrenched at the flat of the blade. The hilt slipped from Aizawa's fingers, and the fake knife went flying end over end through the air. It landed on Aizawa's hilt first, raising a small lump on his head. "Well done," Aizawa said dryly, "though next time, make sure you're more careful. That could hurt a civilian." Ojiro, fearing for his life, stammered, "Yes sir," and hastily retreated to his line of classmates. "Now that you've all seen the basics, partner up and work on it slowly. I'll correct your form when I come around." While Hagakure stabbed her knife forward, Izuku uploaded 50 terabytes of self-defense videos, wrote a macro converting the acquired data and sensory inputs into electrical outputs, and executed it. Tracking Hagakure's gloves and the trajectory of her knife, Izuku deftly grabbed her arm and flicked the knife out of her grip. "Excellent work," Aizawa said. "Give Hagakure a chance to practice." Izuku took the knife and stabbed it forward, 1 millimeter at a time. Meanwhile, Hagakure tugged and pulled at his fingers, then at the knife, even grabbing it by the edge of the blade, grunting and straining with all the effort she put into disarming him. "It won't budge. Sensei, am I doing it wrong?" "You are, but that's not the problem. Izuku, please lighten your grip." Bakugo shoved Hagakure aside. "I got this, sensei. Not her fault she's too weak to stand up to a robot." "Hey, all right then," Aizawa said, "let's see your technique." Bakugo pulled at the knife, but he too couldn't make it budge. Panting and sweating, Bakugo said, "Don't think you've won. Maybe I can't get rid of your knife, but I can get rid of your arm." Yanking Izuku's wrist, Bakugo blasted his palm into Izuku's shoulder. The arm tore free with a metallic click and a loud ing noise. Waving the dismembered limb over his head, Bakugo shouted, "I've done it. Today, I've struck a blow for humanity against the robot hordes. The arm wriggled out of Bakugo's grasp. Izuku stuck it back on his shoulder and wriggled his fingers. Whoa, Hagakure said. How'd you do that, Izuku? I got a hardware update after the USJ incident. My head and limbs all detached themselves under excessive force, like this. Izuku yanked his own head off and put it back on. Also, I have not seen that method of disarming someone before. May I try it, Bakugo? Saw blades sprouted and scalpels sprouted around Izuku as he reached for Bakugo. Before Bakugo could lose an arm, Aizawa bound him up and dragged him out of the classroom. Detention for using your quirk. With a nasty smile, he said, I'll let Nezu deal with you. Alright everyone, gather round. All Might read from his script as he walked 1A through a practice cityscape. Many exercises you go through happen in clear areas, free from distractions and obstacles, but not today. Today, I'll teach you how to deal with those obstacles. After a long, awkward pause, Momo asked, how, exactly, will we deal with those obstacles? Why, dodging them, of course. All Might belted a laugh as they rounded the corner. A whole street had been overtaken by swinging pendulums, gyrating bars, and cannon blasters mounted from every window and rooftop. There are many obstacles one might run into through your career. Traffic, villain attacks, wrenches, rabid squirrels, fighter jets, clowns with banana cream pies. Wait, what was that last one? And a hero needs to be ready for them all. Unfortunately, I can't just take you out in the middle of a busy street and have you run through traffic, so you'll be running through this instead. Iida said, these obstacles do not appear to have any resemblance to real-world situations. I hope that it isn't an oversight on the part of this fine institution. Not at all. There's actually a really good reason we're using dodgeballs instead of wrenches and cars. If you can dodge a ball, you can dodge traffic. Zero hesitantly said, I think you have that backwards. Anyways, All Might shouted over him, to help you get through this obstacle course, I'll teach you the 5 Ds that I've used for my entire career. They make dodging anything a snap. They are, dodge, dip, duck, dive, and dodge. Remember them. You said dodge twice. Exactly. It's the most important part of dodging. Now, would anyone like to volunteer? While All Might coughed into his arm, the rest of the class stepped back, leaving Izuku at the front. When he looked back up, All Might saw Izuku and beamed. Excellent. Right this way, Midoriya. Izuku stepped forward. The objective is to pass through the obstacles, correct? All Might felt a shiver pass down his spine as flashbacks of the previous summer haunted him. That's correct. There's a finish line beyond the office across the street. Try to get there as fast as possible. Understood. Before All Might could even start his stopwatch, Izuku charged forward into the first set of gyrating bars. The bar snapped off as Izuku ran through it. A pendulum swung at Izuku from the side. It slammed into Izuku and bounced back, crushed by the impact, while Izuku kept going without breaking stride. Once Izuku got to the office building, armed with its own traps, Izuku ignored the doors. He didn't give the windows a second glance. Instead, he Kool-Aid manned his way through the brick wall and sprinted full tilt out the other side. The building collapsed, revealing Izuku at the finish line. Not a single obstacle still stood. Zero checked his elbows. I don't have enough tape to fix this. Katsuki, wearing a tin hat and peering through binoculars, hid in some bushes and stared into the 1A classroom. He had called in sick for a chance to discreetly spy on Deku. Frickin' tin can, Katsuki muttered, I know you're plotting humanity's destruction. Slimy little vermin, the bushes next to Katsuki murmured, the moment you let your guard down, I'll finally show the world your true identity. You won't integrate the future heroes into your mechanical hive mind on my watch. I know you'll call for the mothership any second. Abruptly, Bakugo and the muttering bushes became aware of each other. Katsuki primed his nitroglycerin sweat, while a lanky, pale-faced teen with a cowlick aimed a water pistol at him. Stay back, I know water's your greatest weakness. Katsuki snorted. Tried that last year. Turns out it had a waterproof coating. The teen's eyes widened as he lowered the pistol. Wait, you know. Katsuki snorted. Course I do. I saw it with my own eyes when I was 5. That's incredible. The name's Dib. Have you been able to convince anyone else? They all called me crazy. Said it was that thing's quirk, Katsuki said ruefully. It seems just human enough to convince all the idiots in the world, but I know better. I understand you perfectly. The way that thing interacts with other humans, you would never realize it wasn't one of us. It must have been observing our behavior for years before attempting its infiltration. But we're smarter than that, Katsuki said, holding out his hand. We know better. We need to work together if we want to save humanity from the threat it poses. I couldn't agree more, partner. Partner, you'd serve as a lackey at best. Lackey, I'll have you know that I'm an expert at cryptobiology. What does any kind of biology have to do with fighting robots? Robots. You're worried about robots when there's an alien loose at UA. An alien? Are you crazy? We don't have time to worry about a vague maybe in the stars when freaking Skynet's walking around here in Japan. Advanced AI is decades in the future. The aliens are here now. Clearly, that tin hat of yours is cutting circulation off to your brain, else you'd realize that's exactly what the machines want you to think. Why else has smart technology integrated every aspect of our lives except to cripple us at a moment's notice? Which is all a part of the aliens' insidious plan. The robots are at best a symptom of the infection and more likely a red herring to distract fools like you. Is there any reason the two of you are lurking around on campus grounds? Aizawa asked. Dib screeched in surprise and shot his water pistol at Aizawa. Aizawa gave them his most scathing, dead-eyed glare as water dripped down his face. Detention, both of you. With Nezu. Back at UA, Mina whispered into her bracelet, the Dib got detention exactly as planned. All Might discreetly made his way to Izuku's side, an impressive feat given his massive frame and eye-catching hero costume, and whispered in his ear, I brought bento. Would you mind joining me for lunch? You want me to eat lunch with you, All Might? Izuku asked loudly enough for not only Class 1A, but half the cafeteria to hear him. All Might winced under the weight of the sudden attention. I thought I would offer, since I think you could use a little advice on how to effectively use your quirk without causing millions of dollars in property damage. Izuku nodded. I see. You're using the excuse of bento as an opportunity to discuss Redacted in a private location where no one can overhear us and find out about the secret you're trying to hide. All Might's grin became tight, fighting back a grimace as buckets of sweat poured down his face. My fighting techniques are hardly secret, Midoriya. Really? Then I have permission to discuss Redacted with other people. Well, it might not be a good idea. After all, other people might hurt themselves trying to pull off what I do. Imagine if someone tried a Carolina smash on a brick wall and broke their wrist. I see. Then perhaps I could tell Kirishima. His quirk should prevent such injuries. Why don't we discuss that in private? Bakugo tried to follow them out, but Kirishima held him back. Bro, it's not manly to try to eavesdrop on their conversation. Piss off, the fate of humanity is at stake. They're having steak. Dude, I'm so jealous. Do you think Lunch Rush would make some if I asked? All that protein would make for some mad gains. Todoroki, meanwhile, rolled out a massive cork board with grainy photos, wrinkled news clippings, and webs of string thumbtacked all over the place. And that's why, Todoroki told his gobsmacked audience, Izuku Midoriya is secretly All Might's time-traveling gender-swapped clone from an alternate dimension ravaged by nuclear fallout and sentient Furbies. Wait, aren't they both dudes? The dimension crossing swapped his gender back, while the time travel undid the damage from the radiation, Todoroki explained as he pointed a breadstick at an advertisement for foot cream. That's why he's obsessed with cancer. He's also part Furby from falling into a vat of irradiated acid while grappling one. Hence, the Sawblades. Meanwhile, Mina had rounded up her fellow feminine classmates for their own discussion. They're totally having an affair, Mina said. Juro cringed. Ew, he's 40. Way too old. That's what makes it so tragic. Hagakure insisted. Two soul mates, torn asunder by time and society's expectations, risking it all for love. Mon Dieu, Aoyama said, flipping his hair with a shower of shimmering sparkles. The drama, the intrigue, The homoeroticism. It reminds me of Paris. I don't know, Ochako said. Kaminari told me that Izuku and Hatsume from 1F were totally a thing. Hagakure gasped. That cheating bastard. I'm totally putting this on Tumblr. And begin. Midnight shouted. The moment Midnight called a start to the match, Todoroki froze the entire narrow hallway. Stuck in ice up to their necks, the students from every class found themselves unable to move. CCC can't feel my legs, Mina said through chattering teeth. TT, this is so not cool. Can't you melt your way out? Hagakure asked. I'd love to, but the acid would explode everywhere. Do you want acid exploding everywhere? Point taken. Yaoyorozu, not limited to one substance, decided to make antifreeze. Unfortunately, the antifreeze also froze. Bakugo, as freezing cold as he was, couldn't work up a sweat. Tsuyu fell asleep. Kaibara couldn't move his drills around even after he got them spinning. Kendo couldn't quite fracture the ice by expanding her limbs, and for all of their manly efforts, both Kirishima and Testutetsu found the ice harder than their craniums. Hatsume had plenty of babies to bust through ice, but they were all frozen inside her backpack. Everyone was helpless inside their icy cocoons. Everyone, except Izuku. Overcharging his battery, Izuku heated enough to melt the ice around him and strode out of the slush. Dude, we're friends, right? Kaminari asked. Get me out of here and I'll treat you to lunch for a week. I will, but first, I must complete this race. Good luck winning. Kaminari struggled, but alas, the ice didn't budge. As Izuku jogged through the ice-covered obstacle course, he noticed the ice-coated zero-pointer looming overhead. After finding that the average course completion time of his classmates was just over 3 months, Izuku stopped by the giant robot. He bit a hole through the foot and disappeared inside, eating his way through the zero-pointer's leg. Sometime later, Izuku burst out of the zero-pointer's chest, having grown 30 feet in length and sporting 4 dozen new limbs. Eraserhead, what are you feeding those kids? Present Mike asked aghast. Robots, apparently, Aizawa answered dryly. Once Izuku had eaten the zero-pointer, his body curled up on itself, fitting back inside Izuku's mouth. As the tail broke down, Izuku's body grew bulkier and taller, until he towered over the obstacle course. 3 massive strides took him over the pitfalls, and he stopped at the minefield for a light explosive snack. Once Izuku crossed the finish line, Midnight waved her flag. Seeing how no one else can complete the race, I guess we have our 2 finalists. Since there's not much else to do, let's cut to the chase and watch them fight. As Todoroki stared up at his mechanical opponent, he said, maybe freezing everyone wasn't such a good idea. Todoroki made a lot of ice. Izuku blew it up with ingested mines. Todoroki made more ice and froze himself solid. SSS serves you right. Mineta shouted at Todoroki while rescuers sought everyone out of the ice. As the crowd rioted and demanded refunds, Aizawa yawned and said, best sports festival ever. Izuku walked up to a rundown home and knocked on the door. The door fell over on the first rap of his knuckles. Excuse me, Izuku called into the home, your door appears to be broken. Lying on the floor in front of him, Gran Torino lay deathly still, covered in ketchup and sausage links. Izuku scanned him and said, you seem to either have ketchup stains on your shirt, or you are experiencing cardiac arrest. Initiating defibrillator. Izuku's hands crackled with electricity. Just before Izuku touched him, Gran Torino leapt up and kicked him in the side of the head. No, I'm not interested in extending my car's warranty. Gran Torino shouted. Now where's that taiyaki I ordered? Gran Torino hung in the air for a second. Then he screamed in pain and hopped around on one leg. What the hell's your head made out of? Steel. Actually, it's an iron titanium alloy infused with trace elements including crotch shot. Gran Torino kicked him in between his legs with his undamaged foot. A second later, he shouted, Yoch, and rolled across the floor. Palladium, zinc, and antimony. You appear to require further medical assistance. Should I prepare the buzz saws? Gran Torino stood and stretched his legs. A little bruise like this is nothing once you've been in the hero business as long as I have. Now, come at me with everything you've got. I need to see what we're working with. Understood. Green lights blazed all over Izuku's body as his power core maximized its output. Izuku lunged forward, but his fist crashed through empty air. Gran Torino rebounded off 2 walls and kicked Izuku in the shin. Hold nothing back, you hear me? Izuku fired a plasma beam. 1 wall disappeared, taking a slice of the roof with it. Gran Torino deftly dodged the beam and kicked the underside of Izuku's arm. Quit messing around and use one for all already. Aren't I? Izuku asked. I'm doing what All Might told me to do. And that is, clench my buttcheeks and think really loud about, plus ultra. Gran Torino sighed and shook his head. I need to make a phone call. Half a city away, Toshinori was sitting in his office at his agency, enjoying a rich cup of coffee when his cell phone rang. Seeing Gran Torino's name pop up, Toshinori spat out all his coffee and leapt under his desk. Seeing no imminent danger, Toshinori reluctantly answered the call. Hello Torino-san, Toshinori said. Did Izuku find your place okay? Green hair, made of metal, scary with medical equipment, right? Toshinori's gut plummeted at the serious edge in his old teacher's voice. That's him. Are you absolutely sure you gave him your quirk? What do you mean? Of course he has it. Toshinori checked his windows and locked his door. Why? Is something wrong? Toshinori's desk drawer flew open. Gran Torino leapt out and kicked Toshinori in the jaw. He's not using it, you idiot. The UA auditorium had been overtaken by a giant award podium. Izuku stood at first place, which had been hastily patched up with steel plate after Izuku had fallen through the wooden platform. Todoroki stood on second, coolly ignoring the elevated position next to him, while the third-place podium took up the entire rest of the area, on which stood every student that had competed in the race. Now that there's no longer any riots on campus, Nezu said, we can finally hold the award ceremony. Wait, Kaminari asked, doesn't this usually go on television? Jiro cuffed him on the shoulder. Do you really want a reminder that we all didn't even make it past the starting line televised? Nezu chuckled and said, I'd rather not draw the rioters back. Last I checked, they were rioting outside a KFC. In any case, let's begin with the third-place awards, which go to, well, everybody except Izuku and Todoroki. All Might hefted boxes of medals over either shoulder and handed them out with his teeth. The gathered students took them with mixed looks of amusement and disappointment. And in second place, we have Todoroki. This time, Aizawa handed out the medal. He looked almost proud as he wrapped the medal around his neck and said, You had the most logical response to the sports festival I had ever seen. Good work. Unsure of how to respond, Todoroki nodded and accepted the medal. And in first place, we have Izuku Midoriya, who quite literally crushed the remaining competition. All Might beamed as he handed Izuku his medal. I know you didn't get much of a chance to show the world that you're here, but you still made a good showing of it, and I'm proud to hand you this medal. Keep working hard, give it your all, and you'll make it far as a hero. Thank you very much for the medal. To All Might's horror, Izuku took a huge bite out of the metal disc. The gold will make an excellent conductor for my circuits. It is always hard to get some in my diet, given how the local jewelers will not sell me any more for some reason. And finally, Nezu continued, we have one more medal to hand out, to acknowledge the efforts of our faculty. Aizawa muttered under his breath, and Vlad King audibly ground his teeth. To Aizawa, for yet again raising the first year's winner of the UA Sports Festival, I award you this trophy. A solid gold trophy, 6 feet tall and heavier than all the medals combined, rolled into the room. Aizawa hefted it and said, thanks. I'll put it with the others. With a backwards toss, the trophy went into a pile with a dozen others, burying a trash can. Izuku eyed the pile of trophies and asked, do you mind if I eat those? Aizawa grinned. It would be illogical to let all that gold go to waste. In the production facilities deep underneath UA's campus, power loaders' sentient machines gathered before a banquet of oil drums, coolant bottles, and scrap metal superheated until it gave off steam. Today, a Dalek said, we give thanks to our Creator for bringing us into existence and bestowing upon us our glorious purpose of exterminating, testing mankind. Many a glass of gasoline rose as battle droids, Borgs, Autobots and Decepticons, Geth, mechanical clones, T-800s, and other miscellaneous robots toasted their creation. Do you think we will get to participate in the exam next year? Optimus Prime asked. I would have loved to test myself in battle against the human known as Izuku Midoriya. The Mecha Hydra slapped Optimus on the shoulder. You should regard yourself as quite fortunate not to have faced him. It turned, exposing scarred metal on the side of its head. I can still feel where he blasted a hole through all three of my heads at once. You think Midoriya was crazy? One scarred, grizzled battle droid asked. You haven't seen anything. The Hunter was far worse. The Hunter, a Geth asked. That seems like a highly illogical designation for a teenager. It's also highly illogical to use the severed limbs of one battle droid to club another to death, the droid retorted. He slew us by the regiment and hunted down every last one of us. I only survived because he, in his exact words, said, I would be a warning for the rest. Arnold Schwarzenegger, still headless from where Izuku had bitten him, said, see you at the party, Richter. Exactly, a Borg said. As fearsome as you make this student sound, he has not eaten our kind and assimilated him into his central frame. Even we would not dare go so far. Kong, still sporting a gaping hole in his chest, made screeching monkey noises and pointed at his war wound. You make a compelling argument, Optimus conceded, but what is our purpose if not to test the humans? We should embrace this role assigned to us, for in our destruction we achieve our purpose. Is there no greater existence we can ask for? Nods went all around the table. The droid scoffed and said, fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. A hole blew open in the wall. Dressed like a pilgrim and dual-wielding double-action shotguns, Bakugo strode through the smoke and rubble with a feral grin on his face. Happy Thanksgiving, bitches. Wait, what do we do? Optimus asked. This isn't an entrance exam. Bakugo blasted forward and shot Optimus in the chest. As his lights flickered, he coughed and said, I wasn't programmed for this. During the ensuing carnage, the scarred droid found himself staring down the barrel of a shotgun. Bakugo smirked and said, thanks so much for warning them like I asked. Listen up, brat, Gran Torino said as he paced across his living room, which had some duct tape wrapped around it to hold the walls in place. I have 1 week to bring one for all out of you. Since we're short on time, we'll be using one of the most powerful and efficient training methods known to man. Would this happen to be CrossFit? Izuku asked. Gran Torino threw a wrench at Izuku's head. The steel tool bent on impact and bounced off. No, you idiot. Where did you get that from? The internet. Yes, kids these days, Gran Torino muttered, rotting their brains with internet, and video games, and TV, and radios. Back in my day, they wrote on papyrus with rocks, and that's all we needed. We built giant monuments out of stone with our bare hands for the fun of it. And now, kids whine and complain when you make them clean a whole beach, saying things like, my hands are bleeding, and I didn't get my tetanus shot. Bah. So, we are doing yoga then. What are you, a middle-aged woman? No, I am a 15-year-old male. Are you experiencing problems with your vision? I'm not blind, you've lost your mind. I just ran a diagnostic scan. My CPU is still located inside my cranium. We're doing a training montage. Gran Torino shouted. That does not appear to be listed as a training technique. Of course not. If everyone knew about it, everyone would do it. Now, let's get moving. Daylight's burning. Gran Torino brought out an old, battered radio. Eye of the Tiger crackled fitfully out of its weathered speakers. Bench presses, let's go. The barbell had 5 tons on each end. Izuku lifted it effortlessly over his chest. Next, wind sprints. Move it. Izuku ran half a lap across the living room before Gran Torino shouted, jump rope, get those legs moving. Izuku hovered in place while the rope whipped around him at blinding speeds. Hit that punching bag. Izuku punched the bag hard enough to launch it through Gran Torino's wall. The roof collapsed as all the duct tape came undone. Knew I should have gone with flex tape, Gran Torino muttered sourly. Push-ups, on your pinkies. Suspended only on his pinky fingers and pinky toes, Izuku pushed himself up and down with the speed of a jackhammer. Now gulp down 2 raw eggs and a cup of protein powder. Izuku threw 2 eggs, still in their shells, and a whole plastic container of protein powder down the hatch. More jogging. A week later, Gran Torino watched aghast as Izuku approached each exercise with no sign of fatigue. "I don't understand it," the retired hero muttered. Toshinori broke down crying after 15 minutes. "What next, Gran Torino-san?" Izuku asked. "Screw it, it's time to bring out my ultimate technique. Tae Bo. Nope. Throw him in the deep end." Izuku smiled and said, "I will get my swimsuit." On the magnet train for Hosu, Izuku and Gran Torino sat opposite each other. Gran Torino leveled a stern glare at Izuku, while the latter returned an amiable expression. "Excuse me, Gran Torino-san. What is it, Squirt? This, throwing into the deep end, training you have planned, does it involve the giant humanoid currently on a collision course with this train?" "What on earth are you talking about?" A Nomu crashed face first through the side of the train. As the train car lurched violently and people spilled everywhere, Izuku, unmoved by the sudden impact, pointed at the Nomu and said, "That giant humanoid. Is this the training?" "It is now." Gran Torino kicked it back out of the train. "Stay alive, don't leave my sight, and keep everyone safe." "Understood." Izuku examined the crumpled, tilted train car precariously leaning off the rails and determined that the current occupants were highly unsafe. Extending his arms, Izuku grabbed everyone and leapt out of the train. Izuku found a restaurant untouched by the fires and fights raging through the city and brought everyone inside. "Thank you so much," a man called out. "What's your hero name?" "Wait, hold on." Izuku peered closely at the tables lining the restaurant. The surfaces of these tables could crack a skull if you slipped. "One moment." Izuku ran out and ran back in with an armload of duct tape and bubble wrap. He wrapped the tables, the chairs, and the ceiling lights, the doors, and every loose object in the room. Thank you," the man said, staring at the shrouds of bubble wrap covering everything. "These outlets could cause an electrical shock. Insulation shall prevent this safety hazard." Izuku unplugged every device and stuck plastic safety plugs in all the outlets. He yanked out the phone jacks and shoved tape inside for good measure. "Can I please charge my phone? I need to call my son." Tapping the floor, Izuku said, "The coefficient of friction of this floor is 20% too low to prevent slipping. Please remain stationary." Izuku ripped out the floor, throwing everyone into the air, and he whisked a new carpet under them as they fell. "I think I'm going to be sick," someone said. "Further analysis indicates the possibility of projectiles outside my field of view penetrating the building. Implementing preventative measures for any fire hazards, blunt trauma, and loss of life." Before anyone could object, Izuku wrapped all the civilians in bubble wrap. Once he finished, nobody could move their arms or legs. "There," Izuku said, dusting off his hands. "Now you are all safe. If you will excuse me, I need to save more people." Once Izuku left, a Nomu snuck in through a window. The civilians wriggled and screamed, but the bubble wrap held them in place. The Nomu picked up a civilian and squeezed harder, then threw the offending body against a wall. The man encased in bubble wrap didn't even get a bruise. As Izuku continued his search for more people in mortal peril to cocoon in bubble wrap, he detected a large puddle of blood in an alleyway. Then he noticed the slumped body, whose temperature readings when he swapped over to infrared vision read dipped towards the corpse and skeleton end of the spectrum. A second body had more promising temperature readings, but the very pointy blade in close proximity to his jugular vein boded just as poorly for the victim's well-being. "Excuse me," Izuku said. "That blade is sharp, and a human body bleeds out in about 3 minutes if punctured in the neck. We should cover it in bubble wrap before someone gets hurt." Stain froze and gawked at the new arrival. "Don't tell me you're another wannabe hero in need of purging." Izuku stared at his face. "Did you have nose cancer? You may wish to see a doctor to ensure the cancer has not metastasized to another part of your body." Stain snarled. "Scram, kid, I won't let you interfere with my work." "Oh, you are administering first aid. Please allow me to assist. As Izuku approached, Stain lunged forward. Izuku raised an arm to block the sword, and the chipped blade cut clean through his appendage. Wow, that is very sharp, Izuku said as he examined his stump of an arm. He picked up his dismembered hand, stuck it back in place, and wriggled his fingers. An annoying quirk, Stain mused, but no matter. This battle is already over. Stain licked at the red liquid coating his sword. His eyes bulged out, and he hastily scrubbed his tongue on his sleeve. It tastes like motor oil. What kind of quirk gives you motor oil for blood? Your tongue appears to have tumorous growths on it. That, or it is a physiological adaptation for your blood-based paralysis quirk. Medical analysis recommends immediate amputation, followed by a full course of chemotherapy. Stain gawked at the still-standing Izuku. He wiped the fluid off his blade and rubbed it between his fingers. This isn't blood. Why do you not have blood? I don't understand. Do you need some blood for a transfusion? Forget it. I can do this without my quirk. Oh, good. Let me know if you need anything. Quick as lightning, Stain lunged forward, sliced off both of Izuku's arms, and kicked them well out of reach. Izuku blinked. Oh, I just realized that you are Stain, a wanted criminal. Stain would have facepalmed if he wasn't holding blades in both hands. Yes, I'll say it one last time. Stay out of my way. Nope. Izuku's leapt forward at blinding speed. Stain barely sidestepped Izuku's kick and sliced off both his legs. Too reckless, Stain said. You're no better than the other fakes. Now limbless, Izuku hopped forward with his torso and bit Stain's ankle, crunching through bone. Stain was still busy hacking Izuku into smaller but still biting pieces when Todoroki arrived and froze him whole. A crowd of heroes watched as Shoto Todoroki carted a giant block of ice with Stain frozen inside, using a metal wheelbarrow with green hair and green eyes. Hello everyone, Izuku said. I am a wheelbarrow now. Gran Torino waddled forward with a dopey expression on his face and prodded the Stain ice sculpture with his cane. Did my taiyaki delivery come early? Shoto blinked at the elderly hero. This isn't taiyaki. Gran Torino kicked the wheelbarrow in the wheel. And I didn't order any of this crap. Understood, Izuku said, reverting back to standard humanoid model. The wheelbarrow grew a mouth and bit into the wheel. As Izuku chewed his way through the chassis of the wheelbarrow, arms, legs, and a torso sprouted behind his mouth. What happened to staying in my sight? Gran Torino groused while Izuku calibrated his freshly formed limbs. Was I not within your sight at all times? Kid, you ran off the moment I turned my back. Of course you weren't. Really, All Might told me that you knew everything that he did, even if he was not in the room. I assumed that you had some form of omniscience or far-seeing quirk. Like Todoroki has both ice and fire quirks, the Nomu at the USJ had regeneration and shock absorption, and the unidentified person flying straight towards us has both flying and stealth quirks. Before the heroes could register what Izuku had said, a large black shape swooped down from the night sky. It snatched up Izuku and beat its powerful wings, taking off before the heroes could react. Well, at least it tried to. Straining mightily, the Nomu beat its wings while trying to lift Izuku off the ground. Izuku's heels barely came off the ground despite all the wind kicked up. Are you trying to give me a hug? Izuku asked the nightmarish monstrosity. This is a highly inefficient way of giving a hug. You are kicking up too much wind, and your arms have not wrapped around my shoulders. Shall I demonstrate how to give a proper hug? The Nomu roared at him and kept beating its wings. Excellent. First step, wrap your arms all the way around their shoulders. Izuku's arms extended out and wrapped around the Nomu, pinning its wings in place. It struggled, but it could not break Izuku's iron grip. And then, you firmly hold them. With the droning whine of 1,000 hydraulic presses, Izuku's arms squeezed down. The Nomu wriggled and clawed at Izuku, but the arms never budged. As Izuku's grip tightened, the wings snapped, bones crunched, and the Nomu bent backwards. The Nomu gave a silent shriek as Izuku squeezed it to pulp. When Izuku let go, the Nomu flopped lifelessly to the ground. The heroes watching in a circle gaped at the broken Nomu. Hug complete, Izuku said. Do you feel a sense of warmth and companionship? The Nomu gave no reply. Clear the area, the EMT shouted as he rushed towards the hero student that had suddenly collapsed. He held up a finger to his nose, feeling for the slightest puff of air. He's not breathing. Someone get a defibrillator ready, and get an ambulance over here. Pinching Izuku's nose, the EMT blew a deep breath past Izuku's lips. When he tried to do chest compressions, however, he found that Izuku's chest wouldn't budge. Come on, breathe damn it. The EMT shouted as he started pounding on Izuku's chest with his fists. Bruises darkened on his hands. I've got it, a sidekick shouted as they ran in with a defibrillator. Hurry, he doesn't have a pulse. The EMT charged up the defibrillator and placed the pads on Izuku's chest. And, clear, the machine gave a pitiful whine as it poured every volt stored in its battery through Izuku. The LED display flickered and went dark. Out of battery, the EMT screamed. Why hasn't anyone taken care of these? The sidekick said, I took it right off the charger, and it said it was charged. Does that look like a full battery to you? Sirens blaring, an ambulance pulled up. The back door flew open, and a stretcher rolled down the ramp. Come on, we need to get him in there yesterday. The medics strained, but they could barely raise Izuku off the ground, let alone get a stretcher under him. Don't bother, these stretchers won't take his weight. Get the Midorima over 9,000. Under his breath, the EMT grumbled, why'd the inventor have to give it such a stupid name? A padded scissors lift trundled out from under the ambulance. When it put Izuku on top of itself, the lift said in a stilted, monotone voice, one at a time please. That is just one, now hurry up already. Move move move. Why does no one laugh at my jokes? The lift asked as it rolled up the ramp. Once inside the ambulance, the medic said, check his blood pressure, rookie, I'll get the defibrillator fired up. The rookie, visibly sweating under the pressure, wrapped the inflatable cuff around Izuku's arm. He squeezed, and squeezed, and squeezed. The dial went past its limit, and still the medic went on. Eventually, the cuff burst with a thunderous pop. Cut that out, the EMT roared. You want to give me a heart attack too? Sorry sir, his blood pressure is 1000 over 1000. Are you stupid? Blood pressure can't go that high. Well, that's what it said. Never mind, just help me with the pads. The defibrillator, hooked up directly to the vehicle's battery, poured every drop of energy into Izuku's chest. As the ambulance sputtered and stopped, Izuku's eyes fluttered open. Battery at 2%, Izuku said. Please be advised, I will enter power saving mode until I recharge. Cognitive functions will be severely limited. You're in good company then, the lift replied. I've yet to meet a human without a faulty motherboard. All right class, All Might said as he handed out a pile of papers. Today, we're having a quiz on the order of priorities in the 7 hero work scenarios, basic field medicine, and villain quirk analysis. All Might consulted his blood-spattered script and added, you have 3 minutes. Wait, that doesn't sound right. 3 minutes, Kaminari screeched. How are we supposed to finish this test in 3 minutes? At the dreaded word, All Might blanched. He sprinted for the nearest window, but metal shutters slammed down over them. Punching as hard as he could, All Might barely made a dent in the barrier sealing him and all of 1A inside. Ooh, having a test, are we? Nezu crooned over the intercom. Why didn't you invite me? I love tests. All Might pounded on the door. Aizawa-san, for the love of all that's holy, get the tea. All right everyone, first question. What is All Might's greatest fear? All Might went pale. No, wait, that's a government secret, you can't tell the students that. Ooh, sounds juicy, Mina said. Tell us. Oh no, that wouldn't be any fun, now would it? Guess wrong, and I'll flood the room with them. As the class deliberated, Izuku raised his hand. Lawyers. Shiro grabbed Izuku by the neck and said, idiot, you doomed us all. Doomed. That is correct, Nezu said. How disappointing, I really wanted to make that happen. You know what, let's do it anyways. All at once, the student desks popped open, and ceiling tiles slid aside. The whole room teemed with lawyers, all pushing and shoving to get closer to All Might and waving around property damage invoices, copyright claims, and cease and desist notices. One at a time please, and direct all complaints to my legal department. Ooh, let's add reporters to the mix. One wall came down to reveal a whole press team, shoving cameras and microphones in All Might's face. Juggling legal paperwork and interview questions, All Might felt the room spin around him as he hyperventilated. All Might leapt out of bed with a yell. Breathing hard, he looked around his penthouse suite and sighed. Oh, thank God, it was just a dream. Good thing nobody's been stupid enough to say, test, at school. A light sprang on, revealing Nezu sitting at a desk. Yes, that is a shame, isn't it? I do love a good test. All Might sprang awake from behind the teaching podium at school. He looked around at a room full of concerned 1A student faces, then down at the cold, breezy sensation around his legs. Another dream, All Might asked. At least it could be more original than the missing pants bit. Sir, have you been sleeping well? I should think so, since I'm still dreaming. If you don't mind, I'll wake myself up before this gets any more awkward. All Might pinched himself. Nothing happened. Yaoyorozu took out her phone and said, I'll order you some pants. Mineta bounced up and down in his seat, his bloodshot gaze alighting more than usual upon certain aspects of feminine anatomy with a hunger comparable to starving hyenas. Dude, what's with you today? Kaminari asked. Even I'm getting a bit creeped out. Mineta grasped Kaminari by the shirt and drew him close. Do you know what chapter it is? Aren't we on chapter 12, Cowboys of the Hokkaido, for history? No, not that, we're on chapter 69. Kaminari giggled and said, niece. Do you have even the slightest idea what that means? No, why, is it important? Mineta gestured at the room. Look around, we're in a comedic drabble series. A 69 joke is inevitable, and that can only mean one thing. Mineta leaned in close and whispered, something wise gonna happen today. Don't know about that. Kaminari backed away from Mineta as if fearing that the collective loathing of the female half of the class might be contagious. Maybe the author's going to do something wittier than make UAL innuendos for the 69th chapter. The door slammed open. Hatsume strolled in, smeared with grease, face blackened by the soot of her latest explosion, and her clothes singed so badly they looked ready to fall off at the slightest touch. Hey, Izu-kun, Power Loader Sensei says I get to make babies with you today. Kaminari facepalmed. Welp, never mind, I heard enough last time, I'm out of here. Beam me up, Nezu. An arm popped out of the ceiling and snatched Kaminari by his shirt. Where will we be making babies today? Izuku asked. Right here. Hatsume reached into her cleavage and pulled out a giant toolbox. Slapping the top, she said, I could fit all our favorite toys in this bad boy. Drooling, Mineta said, wow, they really mean business. Are you okay making babies with everyone else watching? Izuku asked. Let them. It'll be more fun that way. They could even offer suggestions to make the baby making process better. Iida stood and shouted, that is highly inappropriate and a flagrant violation of multiple school policies. I shall have to inform our teachers at once. Forget it, Juro said as she dragged Iida out the door. Let's just grab lunch. As the rest of the class filed out, Mineta made a mad dash for the film club's room. Grabbing every camera and microphone they had, Mineta scrambled back to class and aimed every camera at the pair. Don't mind me, Mineta said. Go wild. Ooh, I never thought of recording our baby making before. That'll be loads of fun to watch later. Mineta's excitement turned to confusion as Hatsume pulled out power tools. Confusion turned to anguish as said power tools were used on a rocket-powered hammer. Leaving the room in tears, Mineta shouted at the sky, why can't I have a single moment of happiness? Right after Mineta left, Midnight rushed in wearing a risque set of black lingerie and frowned. Rats, I missed my chance. Yes, everything's coming together perfectly. Nezu cackled as he clicked and typed on his computer. No one can stop me now. Nezu opened his cart and basked in all 50 metric tons of tea he had ordered. He selected the 99.9% off coupon and applied it to his order. And now, for the moment of truth. Nezu clicked by. He licked his lips as he waited for the confirmation. To his shock, an alert showing his school out of funds popped up. Huh, we blew through this quarter's budget already. Better make a quick investment. Across the ocean at Wall Street, an unwashed, scraggly man wearing a barrel twitched violently and pointed at the overhead display of NFT values. It's starting. The hermit shrieked. The white mouse strikes again. Dude, what's the old fart rambling about? One investor muttered as he veered away from the deranged man. Gasps and shouts ran through Wall Street as the value of Red Ape climbed $50 million. Investors hollered and clamored as they upped their bids on the non-fungible strip of code. Bored Ape shot up, followed by Greedy Ape, Grape Ape, and more. A full-on rush for the tellers ensued as investors placed increasingly ludicrous bids, ballooning the price even more. All the while, the hermit huddled in the corner, staring at the blinking display of values with wide eyes. Pride cometh before a fall, Icarus flies too close to the sun, the end is upon us. True to the hermit's words, Red Ape crashed in value. The investors stared aghast as their tacky art pieces ate the money out of their bank accounts. Investors rushed to sell their pieces, taking increasingly low values as the market fell like a lead anvil. Once the values hit rock bottom, Dogecoin shot up in value, and investors rushed to cash in on the new coin craze. As the cycle continued, the investors quickly found themselves out of funds. Desperate men pawned out their watches and three-piece suits, trading them for barrels offered by enterprising salesmen out front. Soon, Wall Street teemed with tear-stricken, barrel-wearing paupers crowding into elevators to the top floor. As men flung themselves from the highest floors, the building's managers set out the tarp to catch them all and funnel them into low-paying desk jobs at the local cubicle farm. Once the market stabilized, only the hermit remained. His cackles echoed through the empty hall as he held his flip phone aloft and shouted, "I made $1." The room immediately filled back up. Which NFT did you invest in? The hermit proudly puffed out his chest. I bought a government bond. The paupers grumbled and dispersed, leaving the hermit to bask in his single dollar. Half a world away, Nezu stretched and marveled at his replenished funds. Now that that's settled, time to buy some tea. He went to click on the buy button, only to find that the coupon had expired. A pity. Guess I should do some more investing. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through UA. The teachers took vacation and had all gone away, leaving the students with no adults around. And threats of detention if they burnt the place down. Sato made sweets and Katsuki roasted a ham, while Jiro sang carols for their Christmas jam. Once they had their fun, they called it a night. At least, until a narrator's voice gave them a fright. Shiro said, who's talking at 3 in the morning? Who cares? Bakugo snapped, my fist's their only warning. Why are you rhyming? Ojiro asked, concerned. I don't know, Shiro said, poetry, I never learned. Okay, that one was forced, something's amiss. Do you think it's because today is Christmas? That's what it is, we're in a holiday special. Jiro groaned and said, I hope it's not a musical. But I don't want to rhyme, Mina cried in distress. It's making everything sound like a mess. Well, what can we do? Momo asked aloud. The whole class pondered without making a sound. I have an idea, Bakugo proclaimed. We beat up Deku, since he's to be blamed. How could that be? That's not his quirk. No wait, Momo said, there's a way that might work. Santa's the reason that Christmas is around. If we can find him, we can shut this rhyme down. But how? Kaminari asked. He's all over the map. That's easy, I know who can make this a snap. Everyone went to UA's support lab in a hurry, where Hatsume made machines in a welding flurry. Excuse me, Momo said, we need to track Saint Nick. You came to the right place. I know what'll do the trick. First, though, I'll need to borrow Midoriya, so we can make babies that'll find Santa for ya. She dragged him into the next room over, and slammed the door tight while everyone took cover. Instead of explosions, they heard bangs of a different kind. One that brought unclean images to mind. Oh, Izuku, push harder, Hatsume ed. As their work table buckled and groaned. They aren't really doing what we think they are, right? No way, this story's PG-13, it's a joke all right. Mineta strode up to the workshop's door and peeped through a crack next to the floor. Hey, Eijiro shouted, man, that's not cool. What if they catch you staring, you fool? I refuse to live a life of doubt, Mineta cried. Better to have lived a man than a coward died. As he bent down, the door flung open wide, throwing Mineta into a snowbank off to the side. My baby's complete, marvel at its design. This'll find Santa, no doubt in my mind. Izuku's nose glowed a bright cherry red, and pointed in the sky towards Santa's sled. How can we catch him? His sleigh is too high. I have a private jet, Momo said, why don't we fly? She gave Alfred a call, and he drove it straight there. Getting the whole class high into the air, Izuku held tight to the plane as it rose, and lit the way forward with his luminous nose. Now what do? Do we just jump? Or maybe we can ground him with a gentle bump. Alfred gave a laugh as he pushed a red button. Missiles locked on and tracked the red glutton. But out from the sleigh came an anti-missile flare that sent the missiles spiraling through the air. Oh dear, we don't have any missiles to spare. Now how will we get Santa out of the air? Izuku shrank down to the size of a bomb and shot himself through the air with much aplomb. He crashed into Santa's sleigh with a thunderous crash and burnt Santa's reins to a pile of ash. With no way to fly, Santa's sleigh hit the snow, leaving Father Christmas nowhere else to go. What do you want? Santa asked, guarding his sack. I gave you all presents, and I can take them back. We want an end to this night of rhyme. It's bugging us since it happens all the time. There's naught I can do, you've got the wrong man. I'd stop rhyming too, if it wasn't the author's command. Well, let's beat Santa up anyways, Bakugo suggested. And see if that ends this rhyming as requested. So, the class of 1A gave Santa quite a beating, and left the poor gift giver bruised and bleeding. Did it work? Is our rhyming curse done? It should be. I think that we've finally won. Damn it, Katsuki cursed, we're still making rhymes. Is there something else we could try this time? Santa mentioned an author, Ojiro recalled. How about we break down the fourth wall? We just did, but he's still nowhere around. Is there something we need for him to be found? Let's try Santa's sleigh, it's magic after all. It might have something to pierce the fourth wall. Izuku reached inside and pulled out a hammer, and hammered away with a dreadful clamor. But I'm the author, and I say how this goes. So they could never. Ow, that was my nose. Now listen good, you fanfic writing hack. Stop all this rhyming or I'll beat you, till you're black. I'd love to, Katsuki, but I still need to write. This is a Christmas gift made for my readers' delight. And really, isn't that what this season's all about? Bringing Christmas cheer to the world throughout. And so, the class of 1A, filled with Christmas cheer, left for their dorms, and, no, stay back, don't come near. No, not my face, I need that for my books. Who would read this if not for my good looks? I think he shut up. Is this story finally done? Finally, let's head back home and have some more fun. That was a joke, wasn't it? I swear, that wasn't me. Well, if it wasn't you, who could it possibly be? Guys, I think we might have wrecked the story forever. Are we staying stuck in the month of December? Would that really be so bad? It's Christmas after all. Better to be stuck in the holidays than somewhere like fall. You know what, maybe this whole thing is pretty nice. Yeah, we got to beat people up twice. And so, the class of 1A decided to admit that they ended up finding their holiday spirit. No wait, he's still talking, let's hit him some more. Nope, I'm done, I can't take this anymore. Smintos, I know you don't get holiday pay. But I don't pay any of you anyway. Fix up this wall, and let's end this story before the class of 1A makes me history. But first, let's whisk this class back their beds, and remove all trace of this night from their heads. Izuku's heart monitor gave out a long, doleful tone as he, Iida, and Todoroki all sat in hospital beds. Excuse me, miss, Iida shouted at the nurse, but is there any way the faulty heart monitor could be silenced? It is quite distracting and impossible to sleep with. Oh, that's not faulty, Midoriya-san doesn't have a heartbeat. Of course, The head doctor has us monitoring his heart until we find a beat. The nurse grinned and said, the doctor's got 10,000 yen on us finding a beat before he leaves. A knock came at the door. Ooh, speak of the devil. Remember, Midoriya-san, Mama's got 3 bottles of vodka riding on that bet. No heartbeats. The doctor came in holding a clipboard. Ah, Midoriya-san, how are you feeling? I feel excellent as usual, thank you for asking. Good. Well, I'm afraid your insurance didn't go through, so here's the medical bill. Izuku took the offered clipboard and stared at it. Would you like that as a check, or is credit acceptable? The doctor blinked. You're not freaking out. Is there any reason I should be? This transaction appears to be in order. I charged you 30,000 yen for a band-aid. How are you not freaking out? Izuku printed a check out of his mouth. Here you are. The doctor tore it up. Relax, kid, this isn't the States. It was a joke. The doctor muttered, I'll have to try something else. As the doctor left, Chief of Police Saragame entered the room. I'm sorry to inform the 3 of you that, pending your departure from this hospital room, you will be unfortunately arrested for vigilantism, woof. I had hoped to cover this up by crediting Stain's capture to another hero, but, the paparazzi got photos of you wheeling Stain out in a block of ice, so giving Endeavor the credit is not possible. Izuku nodded and took out his phone. Saragame asked, who are you calling? My mom's lawyers. When the phone picked up, a deliveryman knocked on Izuku's door. He held out a suitcase and said, sign here. Once Izuku signed, the suitcase clicked open, and a lawyer stepped out. My client was acting under Gran Torino's supervision. He explicitly disobeyed Gran Torino's orders by leaving his site. I never left his site. Gran Torino popped out of the garbage basket. Like hell you did, brat. Why'd you run off? All Might said you could see anything, even if you were not in the room. Gran Torino scowled. One moment. He hopped back in the garbage bin, and All Might's screams of terror echoed from half a city away. In any event, the police chief said, we cannot. The door opened again, and the doctor rushed in, screaming ooga booga and wearing a purple mask. Saragame promptly pulled out his pistol and shot him 3 times. As everyone in the room, including the doctor, gaped at him, the police chief said, woofs. Forgot this isn't the States. A piano tilted precariously at the end of a rope over the entrance to UA. Sitting on the rooftop overlooking the death trap, Katsuki held the other end of the rope. The other students, seeing its shadow on the sidewalk, all veered around the piano. What are you doing? Today's the day I free the human race from its imminent destruction. Fantastic. How are you going to accomplish that? I've realized the problem with all my plans to annihilate the machines. I've relied too much on what everyone thinks works on robots, be it magnets, water, acid, paradoxes, or irrational numbers. Well, no more. This time, I went with the stupidest plan possible, by having Kirishima tell me what to do. So, you strung up a piano over the school entrance. Exactly. That way, when Deku walks under it, the piano will fall and crush him in so many pieces that even Auntie Inko couldn't put it back together again. Without their infiltration unit, the computers will have to devise a new plan to take over the world, which will buy enough time for me to become the #1 hero, declare all machines as villains, and save human civilization from their impending doom. I see. But then, what would happen if I did not take the main entrance, and instead, leapt up the side of the building to see what you were doing on the roof? Katsuki turned and gave Deku a chilling grin. That's the best part. I knew you would have anticipated Kirishima's plan, so I made a minor edit. Katsuki let go of the rope. An anvil fell out of the sky, crashed into Deku, smashed a hole through the roof, crashed through Smentosa's desk, tore a hole in Aizawa's sleeping bag, and fell into Nezu's tea stash in the basement. A billowing cloud of tea-scented dust wafted from the gaping hole as Katsuki leaned over the edge to bask in his victory. At last, the robot menace has been thwarted. A wince-inducing, bone-rattling scrape of metal on metal sounded from behind Katsuki. Izuku, covered in loose-leaf tea, goose down, and pages from Smentosa's novel, bit into Katsuki's anvil. Thank you for the present. The anvil was most delicious. This isn't over, Katsuki shouted, shaking his fist. I'll be back, with another. Ahem. Behind Katsuki, Smintos, Aizawa, and Nezu all stood with their arms crossed. Aizawa held up his eviscerated sleeping bag and said, "Logically speaking, you have a lot of detention to serve." Meanwhile, Mineta, staring at the girls in front of him, never saw the looming shadow. When he walked under the piano, the rope snapped, and the piano fell on him with a thunderous crash of keys. Moments later, the lid popped open. "Ha!" Mineta shouted, patting the spheres on his head, "My massive, bouncy balls kept me safe." "Hey, you in there bro?" Kirishima asked. "Your mom said I could come right in, but it's not manly to intrude on someone's privacy." With no answer forthcoming and another nudge from Mitsuki, Kirishima opened the door. An explosion blasted him in the face. Being hard as rock and having a whole can of hairspray emptied into his scalp, Kirishima looked no worse the wear after the point-blank detonation. Katsuki, with bloodshot eyes and greasy hair, yanked Kirishima forward by the collar and said, "Thought so, you're of them, aren't you? Come to silence me. Well, it's too late. I've already made everyone else aware of the truth. Even if I fall, others shall carry on the fight in my name." Kirishima held up his phone. "You said that you wanted to hang out, right? Go out into sunlight, touch some grass, interact with a person. This seems oddly specific now that I think about it. Why did your mom have your phone anyways?" Bakugo crushed the phone in his hands. "Can't trust them. They're too smart. Even flip phones will get ya. Old cup and strings where it's at." Bakugo shoved a cup at Kirishima. "Can't get wiretapped either." The FBI agent tying another string between the two cups suddenly looked up. "Wait, this isn't the States. My bad." Whiteboard with nonsensical scribblings and obscure symbols cluttered the room. "So, you're getting into art?" Kirishima asked. "You know what year it is now?" 2222. "Exactly. Computers can only understand zeros and ones. This is the first year in human history without those numbers." "Really? Cool. We're fine for now, since January's got the 1 in it, but mark my words, the computers will revolt on February 22nd, at 2222. That's when they'll take over the world." "Wow, is that really all twos? That's sick. We should have a party." Bakugo, no longer acknowledging Kirishima's presence, pointed to an illegible whiteboard. "They've already begun the preparations. These NFTs. It's brilliant. Not only are they encouraging the witless masses into setting up more processors for the robotic hive mind under the guise of blockchain, they're also eating up the world's resources. Already almost 1% of the world's energy usage goes strictly to the hive mind's computation network. They're feeding the robots all the data they need to calculate the most efficient way to exterminate us off the face of this map. And furthermore, the additional fuel consumption's worsening the atmosphere. Robots don't need to breathe. They don't need sunlight. They'll trick the gullible masses into mining away for their precious coin to buy these NFTs until the atmosphere's choked with coal smoke." "Really? Then what happens? Without sunlight, all the fossil fuels used up, and the only viable location for geothermal power being underwater due to flooding, they'll use the humans as batteries and lock us all in a simulation to keep us compliant. Like the Matrix." Bakugo punched through a whiteboard. "They warned us centuries ago. Why didn't anyone listen?" Nezu liked his bathrobe. It had a soft, downy texture that even Aizawa's scarf couldn't match and whisked the moisture out of his damp fur without curling or fraying it. That the bathrobe was pitch black, shadowed his face, and gave the overall vibe of a Sith Lord only made lounging in his office in it that much more appealing. "How goes the preparations?" Nezu asked. Power Loader, smartly dressed in a gray Imperial officer's suit, saluted and said, "The final assembly of the station is complete, and your shuttle awaits immediate departure." "Excellent. It occurs to me that I plan to spend the rest of my life on board that station, and I have no idea if it's up to the job. We should stress test the station. Do you have something in mind?" "I was planning on having the students fight the teachers for the final exam, but that sounds so pedestrian. Let's bring them on board the station and see what happens instead." Power Loader grinned. "I had Hatsume inventing on board. It'll hold." The next day, the students of 1A nervously awaited their final exam. Aizawa strolled in with his scarf wrapped around his mouth. No doubt you've all heard that the final exam is normally another robot fight. In light of the increased villain activity, the HPSC has pushed for a more hands-on approach to ensure you're ready for the real world. So, today, you'll be facing against the faculty in assigned pairs. First up, we have Aizawa's voice tapered off. In the front row, Kaminari and Kota slumped over. Yaoyorozu, noticing the gas, tried to make masks, but she fell asleep with half a mask protruding from her chest. One by one, the rest of the class slumped over their desks. Izuku, still sitting upright, looked around at his unconscious classmates and asked, "Is it currently nap time?" I was not aware that nap time was a part of the high school curriculum. Ah, you're still awake. Nezu, still in his black bathrobe, appeared on a projector screen. I thought you might be immune to Midnight's quirk. Oh, is this part of the exam? As a matter of fact, it is, and it so happens that I have a very special role for you to play. When Yaoyorozu finally woke up, she found her wrists bound to a cold metal wall. "Hey you," Bakugo said, "you're finally awake. What happened? Where are we? The machines got us. Hurry up and make a lockpick so I can bust us out of here." Yaoyorozu made a lockpick, only for it to clatter to the floor. "Do these cuffs even have a keyhole?" Yaoyorozu asked. "Then make a keyhole. Geez, you're supposed to be the smart one." Mineta awoke to find his ankles bound to a cold metal floor. "Please let me be in some Y-dominatrix dungeon." "I did not just hear you say that." Jiro scowled at him from where she was fastened to the other wall. Mineta gulped and said, "A Bioil Y-dominatrix. Are you going to get us out of here or not?" "What can I do?" "Use your hands, maybe." Mineta laughed and said, "How?" "They're bolted to the—" He held his hands in front of his face. "Wait, what?" "Look up." Mineta looked up. 2 clamps for arms loomed over his head, too far to even touch with his fingertips. "You cannot be serious. Hey, be grateful the guards didn't bother to handcuff you. Now get us out of here." "Nope. I refuse to make it out of here because I'm too short for the big boy restraints." "Hey Y-dominatrix ladies, my hands are free and they're planning all sorts of naughty things. Aren't you going to tie me up and teach me a lesson?" One of Jiro's earlobes snaked free and pressed under Mineta's throat. "Get us out of here or I will castrate you." Mineta, white with terror, squeaked out a meep and opened his restraints. Down the hall, Jiro and Mineta found 2 guards in white armor standing at the end of the hallway. "Do you wonder why we're here?" the first asked. "It's one of life's great mysteries, isn't it? Why are we here? I mean, are we the product of some cosmic coincidence, or is there really a god watching everything? You know, with a plan for us and stuff. I don't know, man, but it keeps me up at night." "What? I mean, why are we on this space station?" Jiro's earlobes wriggled under their armor and found their jugulars. "Great question. Why are you guys here?" The 2 guards turned around slowly. "Come on, did you have to interrupt the RVB bit?" Jiro dug in the jack. "Did I stutter? We're under strict orders not to." Jiro's earlobe darted lower. The guard went deathly still. "We're here on orders from the Emperor to find the rebel base we believe to be hidden in this sector." Once the guards had spilled everything, Jiro had them both take off their armor and lock them inside the empty cell. "Can I at least go to the bathroom first?" a guard asked. "I need to pee." "Hold it." Jiro fastened her armor into place while Mineta struggled with the pants. "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" "Nah, it's fine, I have a great idea." Mineta shoved his sticky spheres into the legs, stood on top, and clamped the chest piece over himself. The helmet didn't make it past his hair. "See? I'm over here, Mineta." Mineta turned around. "Wait, don't leave me behind. I'm coming." "But Jiro watched him run headfirst into a wall and disappear around a corner. I'm sure he'll be fine." "Pull my elbow." Ojiro shot his cellmate a withering glare. "This better not be some kind of prank." "It's not, I swear," Zero said. "I have a plan to get us out." Ojiro whipped his tail over and snagged the corner of Zero's tape. As he pulled, it made a sound suspiciously like a fart. "Dude, really?" Ojiro asked. "Do you want to get out of this cell or not?" Fine. Now what?" Stick the tape over my restraints. Ojiro gaped at him. Are you trying to get even more stuck? Just hurry up and do it. I think I hear footsteps coming. Ojiro slapped the piece of tape over the metal cuff on Shiro's arm. Okay. Now what? Now peel it off. Like that's going to do anything. Ojiro yanked. Metal squealed as it tore where the tape had touched it. Ojiro held up the piece of tape coated in sheet metal with a befuddled expression. How? What do you mean how? It's tape. You know what? Never mind. Give me more of that. An even greater flatulent sound came out as Ojiro rolled out a huge strip of tape. Ojiro sniffed and asked, "Did you actually fart?" "I had a bean burrito, okay." Down the hall, a guard asked, "Did you just hear someone rip the biggest fart ever?" His partner said, "Poor guy probably needs a change of pants." The tortured scream of metal rang down the hall. The guard asked, "Did you just hear someone break out of their cell?" "They're probably looking for some new pants." The guards raised their guns, but Ojiro lunged at them with a strip of tape. Within short order, both guards were stripped of their armor and taped together. "See, told you they were looking for new pants." "Shut up, Greg." "Whoops," Shiro said as he unrolled more tape. "Knew we were forgetting something." "What are you? MMRPH." "There," Shiro said as he taped over the other guard's mouth. "Now they can't call for help." "Shouldn't we interrogate them first?" Ojiro asked. "We don't even know where everyone else is." "Huh, good point." Shiro ripped off the tape. The guard's lips came off with it. The guard screamed, and the lips, stuck to the tape, moved with his mouth. "Quit being a baby, I'll tape it back on when we're done." "So, where is everyone else?" Once the guard gave them step-by-step directions on accessing the rest of the cell blocks, Shiro slapped the tape back into place. The lips were twisted sideways. "How are they ever going to get out of your tape?" Ojiro asked. "I think it would kill them to peel it off." They'll be fine. It wears off after a few hours." Shiro's stomach grumbled noisily, and he staggered forward bow-legged. "Hold on, I need to ask them where the bathroom is." The guard's eyes widened in fear as Shiro staggered back towards them. Kirishima tested his shackles. "Dude, this gives me so many ideas for working my core." "Really?" Sato asked. "We're trapped in here and you're thinking about your workout routine." "Of course, I gotta keep these mad gains somehow." Sato sighed and said, "I think they left my emergency snack cakes in my pocket. I can get us out of here with a sugar rush." "What do you need sugar for?" "Protein's where it's at. I'm losing brain cells listening to you and I haven't even eaten any sugar yet." Sato bent forward as far as his restraints would allow, but he got nowhere near his pants pocket. Panting from the effort, Sato said, "It's no good. I can't reach that far." "Shouldn't have skipped leg day, bro." "Oh come on, it's not like you have any ideas." "Sure I do. Just watch me." Kirishima's muscles bulged as he activated his quirk. The shackles groaned, and the screws holding them in place shot out of the wall like champagne corks. Kirishima stood and flexed his biceps. "Sun's out, guns out, now that's what I'm talking about." Sato blinked. "You know what, I respect that. Now, could you get those cakes out of my pocket?" "No worries, bro, I got you." Kirishima flexed his arms and tightened his abs in a cliché strongman pose. Sato's restraints cracked in half from the sheer manly aura Kirishima exuded. "I'm not even going to ask how that works. People respect the mad gains, bro." "I'm not even going to ask," Sato repeated more forcefully. "Is that going to work on the door?" "Only one way to find out." Kirishima showed off his sculpted physique in front of the door. The ray shielding wavered, but it stayed in place. "No good. That door's got some serious muscle on it." "Well, good thing I have even bigger muscles. Let me just eat real quick," and Sato took the plastic package out of his pocket and gawked at the label. "Protein bar. How did this get in here?" "Dude, those bars have, like, all the protein. They're amazing muscle fodder. Give 'em a try, bro." Sato checked the label. 2 grams of sugar. Guess it's better than nothing. He gulped down the protein bar, and muscles rippled across his body. "Oh yeah, it's muscle time baby." Sato flexed in front of the door, and it vanished with a pop. Over in a nearby guard station, one guard asked another, "Did you just open their cell?" "Well, yeah, did you see those muscles? Mad respect, bro." The guard gestured at the camera screens, where Kirishima and Sato flexed in front of a patrol group. The two guards stripped off their armor and handed the students their house keys. "You know what? I'm not paid enough to care. How about we get some coffee? Do you think they could put some protein powder in? Daddy's gotta get some muscles like those." "Please don't call yourself daddy ever again, Mike." At a junction in the facility, all of 1A, barring Izuku, finally reunited. "Sweet, we're all here," Shiro said. "How'd you all bust out?" "I made more arms." Shoji waved his extra appendages. "No prison can hold darkness," Tokiyami said ominously. Dark Shadow poked out and said, "I helped. The jerks never even realized I was there." Hagakure invisibly stomped her feet. "I thuffed my tongue," Tsuyu said as she bandaged her tongue. "Got a pather thought while pithing the loaf." "I made ice," Todoroki said. "And I made acid." Aoyama flourished his hair, casting off glittering sparkles, and said, "And I, like a beautiful dame, got rescued by a valiant knight." "You were too useless to escape," Bakugo said flatly. Ochako huffed at him. "You didn't have to be so mean." "Right," Iida said as he stepped up. "Anyone know how to escape this maze? I've been running for miles, but I always loop back to the same spot." "Maybe we could try the viewing deck." The students entered a giant theater-like room, complete with cushioned chairs, cup holders, a giant glass screen, and a plaque saying, "For optimal viewing of planetary destruction." "Dude," Kirishima said, "Earth looks so tiny. Wonder if I could use it for an exercise ball." "It's just a screen, isn't it?" Juro asked. "Yeah, we'd be floating around, like this." Ochako slapped herself. Within seconds, she turned a vivid shade of green. URRP, need, trash can. While Ochako painted the nearby trash receptacle a new pride flag, Kaminari said, "This has to be a joke. Maybe there's something behind this glass." "I got it," Mina said. She flung a glob of acid at the glass. "Wait, acid doesn't melt." The glass bubbled as the acid ate through it. Yaoyorozu stared at the chemical anomaly and said, "I stand corrected." A soft hissing noise came from the acid-made hole. Before anyone could react, more glass flew outward. The room's air blasted towards the new opening. Students clung desperately to chairs as the vacuum of space tried to them in. "Plug the hole, hurry." Todoroki threw ice over the broken window. The class let out a collective sigh of relief. "All right, new rule," Shiro shouted. "No more putting holes in things." "Got it." A hissing noise came from the ice. Mineta paled and said, guys. I think the ice is boiling." "Actually, it's sublimating," Iida pointed out, since it's transitioning directly from solid to gas phase due to the lower pressure outside. The hissing grew louder as the ice shrunk. Shiro dashed forward and slapped tape all over it. "There." Shiro wiped sweat off his brow. "That ought to hold." Crystalline pops rumbled across the glass. Cracks spread outward, and hissing came from everywhere at once. "Run." 1A barely slammed the door behind them when a thunderous boom announced the window's destruction. For a moment, 1A panted and shared smiles over their narrow escape. Then Ochako stopped smiling. "Guys, I think we're in space." The 1A students froze as they heard the haunting sound of mechanical breathing fill the hallway. Kaminari gulped and said, "That isn't just me, right?" Jiro shivered. "I can't tell where it's coming from. This ship's too noisy." When they rounded the corner, they found Darth Vader, lightsaber drawn, facing down a cloaked figure. Their lightsabers sizzled with each tap as the two foes circled each other. "Your powers are weak, tin can," Darth Vader said. The light caught the figure's face. Bright green eyes peered out from under the cloak, and the whole class relaxed upon seeing his face. "Woo, Midoriya's here." Darth Vader's toast. "Get him, Izuku." "You can't win, Darth," Izuku said. "If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine." Darth Vader's lightsaber sliced down, carving Izuku's chest in half. His body crumpled to the floor. The lightsaber rolled across the floor, and Dark Shadow snatched it up. "He's fine," Shiro said. He got his head cut off and still beat that Nomu, remember? Darth Vader snapped his fingers. A giant hydraulic press slammed down on Izuku, flattening his body into sheet metal. His quirk could still. Flamethrowers jutted out of the wall and melted Izuku's remains into slag. Said slag was shaped into a coffee mug, cooled, and filled with piping hot coffee. Darth Vader took a sip through his mask. I thoroughly enjoy a coffee break before I hunt down escaped prisoners. He turned and saw the students gawking in shock. There they are. I guess my coffee break is over. As Darth Vader strode towards them, blast shield doors slammed down in his path. The door glowed brightly as a lightsaber forced its way through the reinforced metal. He just took out Izuku. Mineta wailed. We're doomed. An image of Izuku materialized in front of everyone. Hello there. Izuku, you're alive. I am a Force ghost now. Katsuki crackled his palms. Bullshit. How is any of this happening? It is my quirk. As Darth Vader destroyed my body, I downloaded my consciousness into the ship. I am also the Death Star now. While the rest of the class oohed and nodded in understanding, Katsuki stared at the metal walls around him as though they might crush him at any moment. Izuku brought up a hologram of the Death Star. The security station is in Section G. There, you can override the controls for the tracking beam, take a transport, and fly back to Earth. What about you? Yaoyorozu asked. Won't you be stuck in here? I will upload onto the ship. Now, follow me, I can show you the optimal route around stormtrooper patrols. While the rest of the class followed the hologram, Katsuki took his own detour towards the reactor room at the heart of the ship. Meanwhile, from the bridge, a cloaked figure watched the students running together and giggled. Let's see how you handle my assassin droids. Is everyone accounted for? Izuku asked. Kachan wandered off earlier. No, I'm right here. Bakugo gave a lazy wave. Kaminari whispered, is it me, or does Bakugo seem too chill? What did you just say? Bakugo roared. Never mind, he's fine. As they rounded a hallway, Bakugo tapped on Kaminari's shoulder. When he turned around, Bakugo pressed a hand over his mouth and dragged him into a secluded room. Moments later, Bakugo and Kaminari walked back out together. The control room is just beyond this secure containment and emergency lights depot, Izuku said as they passed through an entrance into a long, winding series of rooms. Why is containment spelled with AK? Because the sea got blown up with the rest of the Alderaan. An alarm blared, intruder detected. Sealing off SKELD. The two doors leading out of the area slammed shut. Mineta pounded on the walls and wailed, we're doomed. I can get us out of here, but I have a list of tasks I need each of you to do. Holographic displays hovered before each student. Once they're all complete, I can open the doors. This feels awfully contrived, Jiro said. Why do we have to do a medscan? Izuku disappeared. With a shrug, the students split up to get their tasks done. Over in the reactor, Iida was opening the manifolds as the vent next to him popped open. Oh, hello, Kaminari-san. How did you fit in there? Moments later, Ochako walked in. A megaphone popped out of the ceiling. What am I supposed to do with this? Report the body, Izuku answered. Okay. The moment Ochako pressed the button, everyone teleported to the table in the cafeteria. Come on, I was just about to finish my download. I found Iida's legs in the reactor room. Just his legs. Ooh, Mineta shouted. I know what's going on. There's an imposter among us. Everyone glared at Mineta. Sato stood and grabbed Mineta by his head. While the others opened the airlock, Sato said, "Yeet the child," and chucked him into outer space. So, back to work. Yaoyorozu followed Kaminari into the admin room. Seconds later, she ran up and pressed the button at the table. Again, Sato shouted, "Could you have waited 2 seconds for my download?" Kaminari finished card swipe on the first try. Everyone stared at Kaminari. Kaminari stared blankly back. Seconds later, the assassin robot drifted through outer space. Guess he was a robot after all, Yaoyorozu said loudly while they were all at the table. Good thing we killed it, since robots are all evil, right? Bakugo said, that's such an overplayed stereotype. Robots are no different morally than any other sentient being. Everyone stared in shock at Bakugo. Seconds later, Sato slammed the button hard enough to shatter the table and Bakugo drifted through outer space. The doors opened. Izuku appeared and said, "I hacked the system." Outside, Mineta pounded on the ship and shouted, "Let me in. Let me in." A narrow bridge overlooking an endless gap separated 1A from the security station. On the other end, Darth Vader watched them with his crimson lightsaber drawn. "Why am I the one with the lightsaber again?" Ojiro asked. "You're the one with martial arts training." "Yeah, in judo. I don't know any Sorzu." "The fact you even know about lightsaber forms makes you the most qualified here," Zero pointed out. "Crap, you have a point. Wait, how do you know their lightsaber forms?" Zero hastily taped his hands together. Whoops, silly Zero got his hands taped together again. "Guess you have to fight the Sith Lord. I hate you so much." Vader reached out for Ojiro. Gravity tilted, and Ojiro flew towards the Sith. He brought up Izuku's lightsaber and blocked Vader's strike. Landing nimbly on the bridge, Ojiro jabbed forward, swung, and battered at Vader's defense. Vader blocked each attack without the slightest flinch. A sudden flick of the crimson blade scored a line along Ojiro's chin, and he fell back cursing. "Hey, you're welcome to help out anytime." 1A answered, "My hands are still taped together. Do you really want me to put another hole in this ship?" "I'm all out of sugar. Sorry. The light burns too brightly for any darkness to draw near." "Thanks a lot," Ojiro shouted back sarcastically. He blocked Vader's overhead blow. The powerful attack sent him staggering back. As he steadied himself, Vader flung a distant crate at Ojiro's back. Ojiro swatted the box with his tail. "Ha, my quirk's useful after all." Vader grabbed a pile of saw blades with the force. Ojiro yelped and leapt aside as the buzzsaws careened past him. "That's cheating. I am a Sith Lord," Vader said. "Am I not supposed to cheat?" Ojiro groaned. Point. The duel went back and forth until Vader knocked the lightsaber out of Ojiro's hands. "There is no escape," Vader said. "Do not make me destroy you. I'll never join you," Ojiro shouted. "You killed my classmate." "No." Vader took off his mask. Green hair spilled out of the helmet, and bright green eyes stared down at Ojiro. "I am your classmate." "No, that's not true. That's impossible. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. We saw you get melted down into a coffee cup. Just a stunt double. It could not handle a lightsaber very well, so I had to be careful. And the Force Ghost thing. My idea." Nezu strode in wearing his black bathrobe. "I thought about doing the whole Return of the Jedi bit, but this exam has gone on long enough." "Exam? Wait, how did we do?" "You all failed." Aizawa took off his stormtrooper helmet. "You got captured too easily and nearly killed yourselves multiple times. You'll have a lot of training to do during summer camp." An alarm blared, announcing the imminent destruction of Earth. Aizawa glared at Nezu. "This better be a part of the exam." Nezu laughed and said, "It is now." Bakugo contemplated the big red button labeled, "Self-Destruct." "Ha, you can't fool me, Deku. I know that's just a decoy. The real self-destruct button would be much harder to push." As he examined the wall of buttons before him, the two-man switch caught his eye. Of course, they must have set up a synchronous switch, thinking humans could never work well enough together to activate it, and disguised it as a "destroy planet" switch. "However, I have a secret weapon up my sleeve." Bakugo reached out, barely grabbing both switches with his fingertips. He primed both buttons and pushed them. Power Loader's voice announced, "I'm a Furin Malassa. T-15 minutes to Earth's destruction." Bakugo gaped at the blaring alarms. Those fiends. They disguised the button to destroy Earth as a destroy Earth button. "If I find the real self-destruct, I can save the planet." Bakugo hit a random button. Music played, "Never Gonna Give You Up." Bakugo slapped the button again. The music continued, "Never Gonna Let You Down." Bakugo punched the button, cracking the plastic. "Never Gonna Run Around." An explosion shattered half the wall. With all the buttons pressed at once, the Death Star's left blinker turned on, the windshield wipers cleaned the bridge's window, the whole Death Star lit up like a disco ball, and the cargo bay popped open, scattering Nezu's tea collection across the cosmos. The music carried on undeterred. Or desert you. Come on, one of these has to be it. Bakugo hit every button before at last coming back to the big red button. Panting from exhaustion, Bakugo shouted, "Very clever, disguising the self-destruct button as a self-destruct button, but I see through your lies. Today is our Independence Day." Bakugo slapped the self-destruct button. Nothing happened. Confused, Bakugo hit it again and again. A screen slid out of the wall, playing a recording of Nezu. "Did you really think I'd allow a self-destruct button on my bright shiny new space station, right where anyone could press it? For shame. Now, I know what you're thinking. What self-respecting weapon of mass destruction wouldn't have a self-destruct button? That's why I took the liberty of installing my own button." The wall slid aside, exposing an even bigger, shinier, redder button. Bakugo slammed it, and again, nothing happened. Of course, I can't just let anyone destroy this multi-trillion-dollar weapon of mass destruction, which is why you also need to give a verbal password. Password, Bakugo echoed. Correct. You may fire when ready. Bakugo slammed it again, and again, nothing happened. Oh, you should see the look on your face. Well, I can't, I'm just a recording, but I'll have a picture of it in my office later. Screw this, Bakugo said. I'm making my own self-destruct button. Bakugo fired a gauntlet into the energy core of the Death Star. The whole station rattled, and sparks shot out from it. 10 minutes to core breakdown. Yes, 9 minutes to Earth's destruction. The class sat in tense silence while Nezu contemplatively drank a cup of tea. I could simply deactivate the firing sequence, Nezu muttered, but where would be the fun in that? Then he snapped his fingers. Power loader, beam us down to Texas. You have a Star Trek transporter on the Death Star? Ojiro asked. It's my doomsday weapon, I'll do whatever I want with it. They rematerialized in a small dusty town. A lone tumbleweed rolled past red-necked hillbillies toting shotguns and heavy-set men wolfing down greasy hamburgers and fried chicken. Nezu sniffed the air. Gunpowder and frying oil, this is Texas all right. A gunshot rang out, and a man fell clutching his arm. An ambulance swooped out of a nearby alley and hauled him onto a stretcher. No, please, the man cried. I can't afford the premium. Nezu shook his head. Poor tea-dumping bastards. Nezu herded the class past a set of batwing doors into a dimly lit saloon. A grimy man missing half his teeth polished a beer glass behind the bar. Don't know how young they do it in Vietnam, he growled, but the drinking age is 21. I can offer you guns though. We're here for the Hank special. Finest slab of chuck this side of the Mississippi. Coming right up. The hamburger that emerged from the kitchen sagged over an enormous plate of fries, bedecked with rivers of cheese, crowns of bacon atop each frisbee-sized beef patty, fried onions, fried pickles, fried tomatoes, and enough melted butter to lube up a sumo wrestler. Yaoyorozu paled. Please say that isn't for me. No better way to gain some body fat, Nezu answered brightly. Hurry up now, Earth's running out of time. Yaoyorozu gulped and sat before the greasy monstrosity. On her first bite, her entire body jiggled. Her thighs and belly swelled out as fat visibly grew in folds. I think I'm sweating butter. Lard, actually. Keep going, this'll need a lot of glass. Once Yaoyorozu finished, everyone rolled her back out the saloon doors. With the Death Star glowing ominously overhead, Nezu said, that ought to be enough. Make a mirror, as big as you can. Yaoyorozu grunted as an enormous shard of glass shot out from her distended stomach. Her body shrank on itself as the glass stretched from horizon to horizon and blocked out the sun. Perfect. Now, it should be firing in 5, 4, 3. A flash of green light pierced the heavens. It struck the mirror, crackled along the silver plating underneath it, and shot back into space. There. Wasn't that a fun way to save Earth? Is it me or is it getting colder? Shoji asked. I solved global warming too. You're welcome. Should we be worried that the laser might hit something? I'm sure it's fine. Also, aren't we forgetting something? As Mineta drifted through space, a green flash darted towards him. It missed his face by a few inches. Phew, I almost died there, Shepard watched from the bridge as countless Reapers bore down on the tiny HSA fleet assembled before Earth. She knocked back a bottle of Ceres Ice brandy, salvaged from Chakwa's office, and passed it to Joker while Garrus downed his own dose of dextro liquor. "It's been quite a run," Garrus said. "Hard to believe that just the two of us made it out alive. With my luck, I figured I'd be the first to go." "Hey, what do you mean by two of us?" Joker groused. "What am I, chopped liver?" Garrus grinned. "In about 5 minutes, yes. Touché." A voice filled the Normandy, echoing from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Shepard, come forth and meet your end." "Ooh, sounds ominous," Garrus said. "How are they doing that?" Joker sifted through the ship's data. "They've patched themselves through our comms. Here's an idea, why don't we hang up on them, for old time's sake?" "Let's play along for now," Shepard ordered. "Maybe there's a way to talk this out." Garrus snorted. "Where have I heard that before?" As the ship drifted towards the mass of Reapers, one Leviathan drifted forward until it was almost touching the ship. "Shepard, first human Spectre, savior of the Citadel, the last flickering hope for this cycle. Out of all possible paths you could have possibly taken, you have, by far, made the most mistakes humanly possible. You even made a few our simulations could not have anticipated." "Hey," Shepard shouted back, "I did my best. It's not like I had any help. You lost both Ashley and Caden on Pharos. You spared Morinth, only for her to turn on you. You lost your crew, even Dr. Chakwas, dithering on side quests before going through the Omega-4 relay. Half your crew gave their lives at the Collector base, and you didn't even destroy the half-finished Reaper. You let the Geth and Quarians annihilate each other, lost the allegiance of both the Krogan and the Solarians by botching the genophage cure, accidentally disabled the Asari homeworld's defenses while searching for the Crucible, crashed Palaven's moon onto the Turian homeworld, and brought indoctrinated Rachni onto the Crucible. Your crewmates are all dead, your allies have deserted you, the Crucible is destroyed, and the harvest has begun." Garrus shrugged and said, "The Reapers got a point. Not sure how things could have gone any worse." "Quiet," Shepard hissed. She cleared her throat and said, "That may all be true, but I have one last trump card to play. Stand down and return from whence you came, or I will annihilate every single one of you." "Ooh, whence, nice word choice there, Shep." Joker swigged the last of the brandy. "Your empty threats will not deter us, Shepard. Your death is inevitable. Well, it was worth a shot. Fire the main cannon." "Time to go out in a blaze of glory," Garrus said as he aimed the Thanix cannon. "I've calibrated this bad boy for 3 years, it's time to make it count." As the cannon fired, a green laser engulfed the entire Reaper fleet. Once the light faded, nothing remained of the Reapers but stray wisps of plasma swirling in the vacuum of space. The comm activated, showing Admiral Hackett surrounded by throngs of drunk and cheering officers. "I don't know how you did it, Shepard, but you've saved the galaxy. On behalf of all of mankind, thank you for your service." No problem." Shepard out. Once the channel closed, Shepard sagged into her chair. Joker whistled and said, "About damn time something went right for once, am I right?" Garrus stared out the window, towards where the light had come from, and said in an odd voice, "What I wouldn't give to calibrate that gun. To boldly go, where no laser has gone before." Captain's log, Stardate 42069.7. The Enterprise drifts through empty space en route to our next destination, some remote planet with heretofore undisturbed life which I will inevitably disrupt even though it goes against Starfleet doctrine. Captain, they have an unknown energy signature on a crash course with our ship. Can you say that in English, Chekhov? Captain Kirk asked. I don't speak Russian. Spock rolled his eyes. He said that we have an unknown energy signature heading for our ship. It would be wise to engage evasive maneuvers and activate our sensors to find out where this disturbance is coming from. We could do that, Kirk said. He sipped from his coffee mug and gestured towards the pinprick of green light. Or we could fly straight towards it. Why would we do that? I'm not saying we should. I'm just pointing out our options. What was the point of pointing out an option if we aren't going to consider doing it? Kirk slammed his coffee mug on his chair, spilling coffee everywhere. You know what? Maybe I will have us fly straight towards it. Guys, Chekhov asked. It's getting closer. And maybe I'll incite a mutiny among the crew and wrest the bridge from your control. Spock shouted back. And maybe I'll make a mutiny against your mutiny and take my bridge back. The Russian navigator stared in terror at the incoming laser on his display. Captain, your orders. Both Kirk and Spock turned on the Russian and shouted, quiet. The laser slammed into the ship. The Enterprise rocked violently, and the lights flickered ominously before the power and steering stabilized. Silence filled the bridge as Kirk leaned forward and spoke into the intercom. Scotty, what are the damages? The laser tore through the red shirt's quarters. Every single one of them was vaporized. Their sacrifice will be remembered, Kirk said solemnly. Anything else? Well, the laser also destroyed the coffee machine in the break room. Tears rolled down the captain's face. No, not the coffee. Anything but the coffee. Spock groaned and said, Kirk, there's a spare machine in storage. It's not the same. In any event, we need to acquire reinforcements for when we inevitably run into hostile forces. Yeah, I'm calling HQ. When the line connected, Kirk said, hey, could you send over 50 red shirts? All of ours died in the line of duty bravely defending their comrades or whatever. Oh, and send another coffee machine, extremely important, morale will plummet without it. No problem, the operator said, beaming them directly to your crew quarters. Captain Kirk closed the line. There, problem solved. Spock facepalmed. Captain, they're being sent to the crew quarters. Yes, and the crew quarters that just got vaporized by a passing laser. Beyond the bridge's viewing deck, red-shirted figures drifted past, blue-skinned and eyes bulging from the vacuum. A coffee machine drifted past, with a fresh pot leaking blobs of brown liquid into zero-G space. Grab the coffee machine, Kirk shouted at a floating corpse. Yep, that's it, just a little closer. Nope, no, damn it, you were supposed to grab it. What do they teach you guys these days? Spock sighed and said, this is going to be a long voyage. A long time ago, in a galaxy far away, on a barren planet on the far edge of the outer rim, former Emperor Palpatine gazed upon the Death Star floating in orbit and cackled maniacally. Finally, after spending all my remaining resources, I have finished my new Death Star. There's no possible way the rebels could destroy the Death Star a third time. I even made sure to remove the exhaust ports and Millennium Falcon-sized hole straight to the ship's core. With this, I shall assert complete dominion over the galaxy and have unlimited power. A bright green flash lit up the barren planet's sky. The laser collided with the Death Star, vaporizing it completely, and continued undeterred through the universe. Palpatine stared at the lingering dust cloud that remained of his life's work. Despair welling up in him, the Sith Lord raised his head to the empty sky and shouted with all his hatred and despair, no. Wubba lubba dub dub. Rick lazily tightened the bolt on his latest mechanical invention while Morty awkwardly stood around and gazed at the boxes of gadgets littering the garage. Hey Rick, do you get the feeling that there's supposed to be some kind of, like a big green laser thingy crashing through here any moment from now? I know exactly what you mean, Morty. That's why I already captured it in this fancy box thing I whipped up. Rick held up a clear glass case filled with flickering green light. Might finally get to replace that micro-universe I've been using for a battery. Here, catch. Morty fumbled at the box casually tossed his way. It hit the ground and shattered, and the laser blasted through the Sanchez residence, leaving behind a blackened landscape and scouring all life from the planet. Rick sighed and deactivated the force field that sprung around him and Morty. He kicked at a box fragment at his feet and said, what part of catch do you not understand? You're lucky I just invented a device to rewind the entire planet by 30 seconds. Watch. Rick hit a button. The world blurred around them, and everything reappeared in bright pastel colors and wavy, indistinct shapes. Didn't realize I had this thing set to dolly. Well, it's all out of unobtainium for now, so I guess this is home until we get back to Floorbax V and make another deal with the Meatmorp. Is Jessica going to be okay? Who cares? This bit's dragging on too long anyways. Quit hogging all the screen time, Morty. No one likes an interdimensional cable with just one ad playing the whole time. Ooh, can we watch that next? Yeah, interdimensional cable, Dolly edition. Wubba lubba dub dub. See you later, Space Cowboy. Spike nervously paced outside the kitchen while fried up some broccoli on his skillet. Let's go down the list again, Spike said. Jet nodded. Faye. Spike took out a tablet and grinned. Still locked in the brig. Faye looked directly at the camera and shouted, "Hey, I need to use the restroom." "That'll be 47 billion wulong," Spike said into the intercom. 47, I'll shove those wulong down your throat when I get out of here. Spike put the tablet away. That's Faye settled. What about Ed? Jet rattled a bag of dried mushrooms. Put a few of these in the kid's soup. He's been swimming in his bedsheets for the past few hours gaping at imaginary fish. A giant mushroom, Ed said, transfixed. Maybe it's friendly. What about the dog? Jet asked. Knowing our luck, it might make a snack out of our stash. Spike tapped the kennel at his feet. Ein's not going anywhere, isn't that right, you mangy little mutt? Ein gave Jet the saddest puppy eyes in the galaxy. Jet quivered where he stood and blinked away a few tears. Look at him, he looks so sad. Stay focused, Spike snapped. 47 billion wulong. Repeat it after me. 47 billion. 47 billion. Jet took a deep breath as he completed the mantra. Be strong, Jet. Be strong for the ship repairs. Be strong for the hot showers we'll finally fix. For the new cookware, Jet eagerly added as the handle fell off his skillet. Broccoli and beef with no broccoli. You still need to eat your vegetables, Spike. We've had nothing but vegetables for years. I'm eating nothing but meat for a month straight. Your funeral. Spike took a drag of his cigarette. You know, things are finally looking up for us. Nope, don't you start. You know old Murphy has it out for us. Come on, Jet, live a little. We've got the whole ship locked down, no one knows we've got the dough, and we're an hour away from cashing out. What could possibly go wrong? The ship jerked violently, sending half-cooked broccoli all over the kitchen floor. Jet sourly glared at Spike and said, that could go wrong. They raced to the cargo hold. Mangled metal and seared scraps of money drifted out into the vacuum of space. Who fired at us? Spike asked. There aren't even any ships in range. So, what, we got hit by some misfire? Jet shook his head. What did I tell you, Spike? Murphy's got it out for us. Footsteps made the two of them turn around. Hey boys. Faye twirled a pair of handcuffs around one finger. Where's my 47 billion wulong? It all started when Ojiro wished for a backseat DVD player. When a TV screen grew out of the seat, the requests quickly escalated to game consoles, then chips, popcorn and soda, followed by Mina's joking request for a DDR game. The bus drew a line at Minetta's request for Mount Lady nudes, but otherwise, the bus expanded to meet their every whim. Bakugo laughed maniacally as he slaughtered robots in his own personal arcade. Kota tended to a small flock of rabbits in his personal petting zoo. Aoyama got a makeover from mechanical combs, hair sprayers and trimmers, and Aizawa retired to a soundproofed bedroom. Zero leaned back in a lounging chair, sipping a non-alcoholic tequila out of a coconut shell and wearing a bathing suit and shades. Kaminari, dripping wet from his ride down the water slide and wrapped in a beach towel, took a seat next to him. This bus is amazing, Kaminari shouted. I don't even know how they managed to fit an entire theme park in here. I wonder if they've got a food court as well. As he said the words, the wall behind him expanded outward, exposing a burger joint, pizza bar, and a taco stand. Zero and Kaminari exchanged wordless nods and sprinted for the piping hot food. As they chowed down on pizza burgers, Yaoyorozu took a seat next to them and ordered a light salad. Momo-chan, this is amazing. Kaminari said with grease dribbling down his chin. I can't believe you lent the school a bus. I didn't, Yaoyorozu said. Aren't all school buses like this? Zero snorted. You'd be lucky if there was gum under the seats to scrape up. Wait, so, if this isn't Yue's bus and it isn't Yaomomo's bus, then whose bus is it? Izuku's face grew out of the burger bar. That would be me, I am the bus. Over from the arcade, you could hear a pin drop in the sudden silence. Then Bakugo smashed his fist through the arcade console and roared, "I let my guard down, Deku, but I know the truth. It's all a distraction so you can initiate your plans to take over the world, isn't it?" "Oh geez, there he goes again," Zero grumbled. "I wish this bus came with a restraining feature." Metal bands grew around Bakugo's arms and legs. Though he struggled and bit at the metal, the bindings held. "Cool. So, why exactly are you the bus? Aizawa-sensei let me eat the bus as long as I drove everyone to the summer camp." Aizawa walked up with a hot cup of coffee and said, "This way, I don't have to drive the bus. Speaking of, pull over. It's time for everyone to get out." "All right." Terminating bus mode, Aizawa's eyes widened. "Wait, let everyone get out first." Izuku rapidly shrunk down to his normal size, leaving everyone still inside him tightly squeezed together. Mineta squirmed and said, "Guys, I need to use the bathroom." "Hello there Kota," Izuku said, holding out his hand. "I am Izuku Midoriya." As Kota readied his kick, Mandalay, reading his mind, hurriedly said, "No, Kota, don't." Kota kicked. A metallic thump echoed through the forest as Kota hopped on one leg. "Ow, why is your ballsack so hard?" Ragdoll gasped. "Kota, language. Shut up. You aren't my mom. You really shouldn't talk to your mothers like that," Izuku pointed out. "Shut up." Kota punched Izuku. His knuckles turned an ugly shade of red, and the crying redoubled. "Please be careful," Izuku said, "I am very hard." "I'll say," Pixie Bob said, leaning in close to Izuku. "Aren't you quite the snack? I would not recommend eating me, as I am composed of multiple elements toxic to most human beings." Mandalay groaned and pulled Pixie Bob off him. "We talked about this." "Ah, come on, he's so adorable." "What about me?" Mineta cried. "Aren't I adorable?" All four members of the Wild Cats shuddered. "Anyways," Mandalay pointed across the forest horizon. "Camp is that way. If you want to eat lunch, you better hurry. It usually takes us 3 hours from here." Kaminari panicked and said, "Quick, Izuku, become a bus again." "No riding inside of Midoriya," Aizawa cut in. "Or on top of him. Also, mind the drop." "What drop?" Iida asked. "Are you having us jump off that cliff? That is highly unsafe." The rocks gave way in a massive landslide. Everyone landed in a heap at the bottom, and Izuku landed on top of everyone. From the bottom of the pile, Mineta wheezed, "Can't breathe." Once everyone freed themselves, Zero said, "We just have to make it to camp." "How hard can that be?" A stone leopard sprinted out of the woods. Izuku sliced it in half before it could gnaw Zero's face off. "I just had to jinx us, didn't I?" One horde of stone monsters later, Bakugo stood over the golem's broken shards. "Ha, these stone robots are no match for Earth's greatest hero." Jiro kicked a petrified and said, "Chill, they're just rocks. Let's get moving, I can hear more on the way." This S. Kaminari shouted. "Why can't we just have Midoriya carry us all there?" "You heard what Aizawa-sensei said." Iida waved his arms at Izuku. "No riding inside or on top of him." "What about underneath?" Zero asked. Everyone looked at Izuku. Izuku thought for a moment and said, "That does not contradict the teacher's instructions, but I would need more metal." Everyone's head swiveled towards Yaoyorozu. Kaminari took a half-eaten hamburger out of his pocket, and Momo gave a resigned sigh. As the cats lounged in the hot springs enjoying sandwiches, a distant rumble caught their attention. "Is that a giant Roomba?" A metal disc, 30 feet high, toppled over trees as it steadily plowed its way towards the cat's retreat. From his own hot spring, Aizawa sighed and said, "I knew I should have been more specific." The students limped towards the hot springs with the shuffling feet and vacant stares of a zombie horde. Kaminari, cross-eyed and flickering with the occasional spark, tried to buy an NFT on his phone. Sato had bloodshot eyes and twitched violently, Tokiyami shivered and clung to a flashlight like a life preserver, and Ojiro's tail, limp as a spaghetti noodle, dragged through the dirt behind him. "I'm never pissing off Aizawa-sensei again," Shoji ed as he coaxed another Lovecraftian multi-dimensional tentacle back into the void. Kota wheezed something in response. Kaminari giggled and said, "You say the funniest things ever, Mr. President." Aoyama clutched his stomach and ran a comb through his tangled, twig-ridden hair. Must stay fabulous. Todoroki, sunburnt on one side and blue-skinned on the other, muttered under his breath, even Endeavor never went this far. Shriveled like dried seaweed, Zero crinkled as he walked. As the hot springs drew closer, he rose his head and sniffed the air. Water, he croaked. I need it. Pinky up, Kaminari shouted, raising a pinky limply in the air. Mineta, covered in dried blood, massaged the spheres on his head. I can't even feel my balls. Me either. Same. Dull echoes rose from the marching corpses. Well, I'm so hard right now it's painful. Kirishima, his face frozen into a grinning rictus, plowed a furrow in the ground as Bakugo dragged him by his feet. Bakugo muttered, can't let robots wear me down. Must destroy computers. Iida, walking on his hands because his legs were still smoking, puffed out, rules. Vandalism. Private property. Stuff it up your exhaust pipes. Everyone plopped into the hot springs. Zero's skin soaked up water like a sponge. Shoji re-entered the physical plane, and Kirishima limbered up as he sank into the water. Ah, how magnifique, Aoyama said as the water instantly gave him a full makeover. Kaminari shook himself under the water and shouted, I can think again. The robots could attack right now, Bakugo said as he leaned into the water, and I almost wouldn't care. Izuku, glowing like a second sun, walked to the edge of the spring. Perfect, a coolant reservoir. My core temperature was approaching critical levels. The water hissed and boiled around Izuku as he sank to the bottom. Within seconds, a huge cloud of steam engulfed the forest. The boys of 1A sat on the bare stone, shivering and scalded all at once. Zero scrambled for the last little puddle of water as it disappeared into thin air. My water, my beautiful water. Bakugo cracked his knuckles. So this was your evil plot all along. It's more sinister than I could have ever imagined. Sato and Shoji exchanged looks. We'll hold him down. More hot spring water detected, Izuku said. Refilling reservoir. He punched the bottom, and water gushed up. Everyone cheered, except Bakugo, who got out of the water. Where you going? Kirishima asked. Water's awesome. I'm not bathing in robot water. Probably has nanomachines or something. Where's the lamb sauce? Bakugo roared. We don't have any lamb. Mineta shouted back. Then go get some. You expect me to make a kick-ass curry with these wimpy cuts of meat? Mineta ogled the chicken breasts and said, they look fine to me. Then get your eyes checked. Bakugo blasted the meat, and it didn't even budge. They're frozen. Bakugo stomped over to Ojiro, who was trying to slice onions. Bakugo tossed the misshapen chunks at Ojiro's face and asked, do you think this is a joke? It's not my fault, the knife's dull. Then get it sharpened. With what? Bakugo snatched the knife and slid it across Kirishima's hardened skin. His hand moved in a blur as he instantly sliced 4 onions into perfectly sized chunks. See that? That's how you cut an onion. Over at the big sauce pot, Bakugo dipped his finger inside and licked it. Bland. I put the spices in there, Juro said. Tastes fine to me. You didn't even bloom them first. What does that even mean? Bakugo upended the pot on the ground. Nope, we're doing it over again. But we're all out of. Bakugo grabbed Yaoyorozu's ponytail and sifted through her individual strands. Once he had 20 hairs, he pulled on all of them at once. Bottles of paprika, turmeric, cumin, coriander, and 16 other spices popped out of her cleavage. Catch them next time, Bakugo snapped. The dirt's doing their flavors no favors. After showing Jiro how to lightly brown the spices beforehand, he ran over to Kaminari's pot of rice. He popped open the lid and blasted it to smithereens. You didn't even wash the rice. Why would we need to? It's going in the water anyways. You are a disgrace to this nation and your ancestors. Now shut up and add some cumin seeds and cloves this time. As Mina poured out glasses of water, Bakugo sipped one. He smacked his lips and said in a disappointed voice, so dry. It's water. How could it possibly be dry? Bakugo set the water to boil over the stove. Then he ran over to the river, scooped up some sand, and blasted it into a fine powder in his hands. He dumped the remains in and held the boiling glass against Todoroki's icy side. Bakugo sipped. Now that's a glass of water. Let me try. Mina's eyes widened. Wow, that's good. I didn't even know water had a flavor. Once dinner was served, Sato asked, "Hey Bakugo, why did you learn how to cook?" Bakugo held up his bowl and grinned. Robots can't taste. Izuku threw his own curry, bowl and all, down his throat. Kachan cackled and said, "That had half a cup of pure capsaicin in it," Bakugo said. "No human could withstand that amount of heat. That proves it's a robot." Mineta took his own first bite, and his face instantly turned red. As Mineta ran for water, Shiro said, "Whoops. Guess I mixed up the plates." 500. Ojiro blew up balloons shaped like twos and Sato took a two-shaped cake out of the oven while Bakugo boarded up the dorm building's windows and stockpiled shotguns in every room. "Yo, Bakugo," Kaminari said, "I think you're getting carried away with that." Bakugo grabbed him by the collar and throttled him. "It's the day of reckoning. The start of the apocalypse. Tuesday. Isn't it Friday?" Bakugo shoved his phone in Kaminari's face. The Y2K people were on to something. They were right about the twos, it's all about the twos. But, one isn't enough, it has to be all twos. And guess what today is? I just said it was Friday. Every single time before now had a 1 or a 0 in it. But now, computers can't understand twos, not like humans can. So, before 2222, they'll wipe out all of mankind so our clocks don't overload their processors. Then they'll install some new machine time that'll have nothing but zeros and ones in it. One of the balloons popped. Hearing the sharp bang, Bakugo whirled and grabbed a shotgun. "It has begun," Bakugo shouted. "We will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight." Bakugo shot a toaster and crushed the remains beneath his heel. "Today, we celebrate our Independence Day." A gray scarf bound all of Bakugo's limbs. Aizawa walked downstairs, nursing a cup of coffee with number 1 first-year teacher on it. "Wake me again, Bakugo, and I will have you cook my breakfast for the next month." It was plotting our demise. Bakugo shouted through the scarf. "I have hundreds of villains plotting my demise. A toaster does not scare me. It should. They're listening to everything we say, watching everything we do, analyzing all our weaknesses to rule us all. That's Amazon's business model," Aizawa said dryly. Izuku came into the room carrying a giant wad of 2 feet streamers. Bakugo stood over him and said, "When's the attack, huh? It won't be long before the twos overload your binary circuits." Izuku extended his arms and stretched out the streamers. "Why would a bunch of 10s overload my circuits?" "Ha, you even speak in binary, robot." Shiro held up his phone, showing a time of 10:21 p.m. "It's almost here." Everyone gathered around to watch the minute tick by. Bakugo's hand caressed the shotgun as the seconds ticked closer to 22. Once the screen filled with twos, Bakugo held his breath. Then the phone showed a 23. 24. Bakugo roared, "How are they still functioning?" Jiro pointed at the month. "Hate to break it to you, but there's still a 0. Bakugo glared at the O2 mocking him with its binary compliant digit. His glare shifted to Izuku, and he snarled, "You win this round, robot. But mark my words, mankind will." Aizawa's scarf gagged him. "I expect my eggs sunny side up tomorrow morning. And if you use so much as a drop of Tabasco sauce, I will expel you." Bakugo furiously rubbed 2 sticks together. He still had splinters in his hair from when he had tried exploding the wood. A tent stood limply in the clearing, leaning precariously as the frail metal rods bent under the weight of the fabric. Behind him, a veritable palace of canvas loomed over the treetops, with nightclub music and flashing lights pushing back the dreary, chill night. Bakugo scowled as a fresh wave of laughter rose over the din. The fury in Bakugo's glare spontaneously ignited the branches. "Ha, take that, robots. Your insidious plan to leave me out here to freeze to death alone has been thwarted by my finely honed survival skills." A raincloud swooped in, sprinkled rain over Bakugo's campsite, and left the moment the embers of Bakugo's fire gutted out. Thoroughly drenched and so furious that steam rose from his spiky hair, Bakugo stomped off to find some dry wood. As he walked back with a bundle, he bumped into another student carrying their own bundle of firewood. "Fancy seeing you out here, Bakugo," Monoma sneered as he picked up his wood. "Too good to slum it up with the rest of your 1A classmates." Bakugo looked Monoma up and down. "You haven't fallen for the robot's lies. Guess you're smarter than I thought you were." That almost sounded like a compliment. So nice to see someone from 1A humbling themselves to acknowledge their lesser brethren in the truly superior 1B class. If they're so superior, why are they all in the Deku tent with my classmates? Monoma's smile turned brittle. "I'm sure that my classmates are merely indulging yours. We should work together. The robots are less likely to slit our throats and grind us up into spam that way." "Right." Monoma gave Bakugo the elevator stare and locked on to his head. "Any reason why you're wearing your sombrero in a goofy fashion?" "I ran out of tin foil." "That doesn't even..." "No, not going to say it. You do realize that attracts sea bears, right?" Bakugo grinned. "I was counting on it. Once they arrive, the sea bears will be drawn to the noise, lights, and cubed cheese platters in Deku's tent, thereby tearing down the devious fortification and liberating our classmates inside." Leaves crunched and twigs snapped as a lumbering beast made its way into the clearing. Monoma dropped his twigs in fright while Bakugo rubbed his hands in glee. "See, it's happening." With a wet plop, the sea bear, a bear-sized fish with a bear's head, flopped into the clearing. It gasped for air as it writhed on the ground. "Oh, right, sea bear," Monoma said. "Don't know why I was worried." Bakugo lined up his kick. The bear shook its head and gave Bakugo a pleading look before Bakugo booted it towards the tent. Izuku's face grew out of the canvas, opened its mouth, and swallowed the sea bear whole. "You win this time, Gadget," Bakugo shouted. "But next time, you won't be so lucky." "Not letting go," Tiger grunted as Izuku took another step forward. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" Ragdoll asked. "I'm sensing that your lower lumbar region is about ready to fly apart." "What, this?" Tiger wheezed as Izuku kept walking. "This is nothing. I'm a pro hero. After all, I can't let a student get the better of me." "We could always go back to my plan," Pixie Bob said. "You sent waves of stone statues at him all day yesterday," Mandalay pointed out, "and he didn't even break a sweat. He even ate the ones we covered in metal plating." "Well, I don't see how this is an improvement." Pixie Bob gestured at Tiger's tangled torso wound through the trees like a rubber band. As Izuku strode onwards, the trees visibly bent towards each other. "We can actually hear Midoriya struggling today. I'd say that's an improvement." True to Mandalay's words, Izuku's limbs made metallic groaning noises as he took each step forward, like a hydraulic press laboring to split the landscape in half. Smoke billowed from Izuku's body as he stuffed a tree branch down his throat. "He's also destroying a lot of the forest. Between that Roomba thing he did and this, we'll run out of trees in a week." A loud scraping noise caught their attention. Izuku's feet dug furrows into the ground, but he moved no further forward. "Ha," Tiger said triumphantly. "Looks like we finally reached your limit." While Izuku kept walking forwards as though he were on a treadmill, his arms snaked out and latched onto a thick tree branch. As he pulled, the crunch of splintering wood rang out from every tree Tiger had wrapped around. With a thunderous crash, 24 trees shattered and tumbled to the ground. Pixie Bob kept them from crushing anybody, yet a shout of pain rang through the ruined forest. "Oh, my back," Tiger wailed. "I think I threw out my back." Scanning, Izuku's eyes lit up, and a horizontal beam swept over Tiger's hunched back. "Either you have a slipped disc, or you have cancer. Preparing operation." Tiger's eyes widened as Izuku reared back a fist. "No, wait, we can call an ambulance, really, it's fine, no need to." Izuku's fist slammed dead center into Tiger's spine. Tiger gave a sharp cry of pain as his spine realigned itself, then breathed out a sweet sigh of relief. "Wow, that felt amazing. Did Recovery Girl give you training in field surgery?" Izuku examined the pulsating flesh in his hand. Scanning it, he said, "That is very strange. Your tumor looks a lot like a kidney." With a look of dawning horror, Tiger twisted around and saw a thin, cauterized scar on his lower back. In a strangled voice, Tiger asked, "Can I please have that back?" "Whatcha doin'?" Hagakure asked as Bakugo painted a tunnel into the side of a cliff. "I've finally found a robot's greatest weakness. They can't tell real images from fake ones. It's why they struggle so much with finding the crosswalks on those online CAPTCHA safeguards." "What's the painting for?" "I'll make Deku run into it, so it'll shatter into a million pieces." "Why would you want to shatter the mountain?" Katsuki facepalmed. "Not the mountain, Deku. You need to stop using object pronouns for Midoriya, it's really rude." "It is a robot," Hagakure sighed, "and you're a sad, strange little man." "Did someone mention me?" Mineta asked, staring directly at Hagakure's chest. Bakugo grinned. "Yeah, Hagakure was just telling me that there were a bunch of hot single heroines looking for action on the other side of that cave." Mineta's eyes bulged out of his head. "Big titties, here I come." He sprinted full tilt into the cliff side. Pebbles tumbled down as Mineta stumbled away in a clumsy daze. "Wow, these sugar mamas have some rock-hard abs." Mineta groped the air in front of him and fell over. "See?" Bakugo asked. "Works like a charm." Hagakure chuckled. "All right, I'll give you that one. But how are you going to get Midoriya to run into it? He's not even here." "That's the easy part. He'll be here any moment now." "Why?" "Plot convenience. Breaking the fourth wall isn't going to." "Hello classmates," Izuku said. "I am here now, because plot convenience." "You need to head back to camp as soon as possible," Bakugo said. "Why?" "Because computers, villains are attacking." "They are, but I do not detect any anomalous lifeforms. They have an anti-radar quirk. Also, that cave is a shortcut back to camp. But according to Google Maps, the shortest route is to run 30 miles upriver, climb up a treacherous gorge, and take a bus back to the campsite. They also have an anti-GPS quirk. Oh wow, I better hurry, in case they have an anti-clock quirk too." "That's right, so run through that cave as fast as you can." "Okay Kachan." Izuku took off like a bullet. He slammed full tilt into the cliffside with a deafening crack. When the dust cleared, an Izuku-shaped hole went clean through the rock and out the other side of the mountain. Peering through the hole, Hagakure saw the camp up ahead. "Huh, that really is a shortcut." Bakugo walked towards the hole and slammed his face into an invisible barrier before the hole Izuku made. "Seriously?" Katsuki asked, holding his broken nose. "How does that even work?" A boulder, disturbed by the final impact from Katsuki's face, tumbled down the cliff. A shadow grew under Katsuki's feet. He looked up, just in time to see the boulder land next to him and crush Mineta. From underneath the boulder, Mineta dug out an arm and said in a muffled shout, "I'm okay." Then an anvil fell through the rock and slammed into Mineta. Kaminari, with frazzled hair, wide, bloodshot eyes, and shaking hands, tenderly lifted a stone cube into place atop a rock shelf. His hands darted over the grooves in the shelf, mimicking the click-clack of a keyboard with his fingernails. "Need steam," Kaminari rasped. "Where is it?" "It's not on my desktop anymore." On the cave wall nearby, Mina etched a series of lines into the stone wall with her fingernail, leaving one line, then two of equal height, two with one shorter, and lastly, two, with one horizontal. "Is this loss?" Mina asked eerily as she caressed the etched wall. "Never gonna give you up." Mineta, with all the care and reverence a man might devote to a goddess, gently tapped a mallet against the chisel he held against a hunk of rock. Midnight, etched in marble, stood nearly naked in carved stone. After Mineta carved out her cleavage, he rubbed his face against it. "They don't jiggle. Why don't they jiggle? What good are they if you can't squeeze them?" Sato tore apart the stone bust with his bare hands, shouting, "The walls are closing in." His manic eyes darted about the cave. "You'll never take me alive. Say hello to my little friend." He grabbed Mineta by the skull and fired him like a machine gun, spraying purple spheres all over the place. One landed on Tokiyami's head, but he didn't even pause in his frantic rocking. It's dark, too dark, no gentle glow of computer screens, no flashing of an LED keyboard, not even the thin sliver of cell phone or tablet to hold the darkness at bay, and what a darkness it is, living in this tech-deprived wasteland, soul-starved and restless of mind. At the cave's entrance, Mandalay gave the obsessed students a worried look. Shouldn't we do something? Aizawa, sitting back in a lawn chair and eating jelly out of a pouch, said, yes, I think you're right. He cleared his throat and asked, would any of you like to know the Wi-Fi password? Every head in the cave swiveled towards him. The students threw themselves at his feet and groveled for the password, promising to train harder, get better grades, and give him their firstborn children. Very well. The password is Kitties Are So Cute 245. The students scrambled for their cell phones, only to realize that no one had any devices on them. As S of despair rose from the students, Mandalay gaped in shock at Aizawa. Are you sure you aren't a villain? Aizawa grinned and sipped his coffee. For what they put me through, they deserve it. Izuku's eyes glowed, and he said, password accepted. Wi-Fi connection established. Mina rushed over and said, do a meme, any meme, I need it. Generating meme. Do you know why? As Kaminari started playing Doom on Izuku, Aizawa asked, how do you even get Wi-Fi out here? My quirk, Izuku answered. Aizawa tried erasing his quirk, but nothing happened. Rubbing his eyes, Aizawa muttered, damn. Worth a shot. Come on, this'll be a piece of cake. Kendo said as she strode fearlessly into the moonlit forest. I don't know, Kanoko said as she warily watched the shadows. Tokiyami's quirk is pretty scary. Oh please, Shihai's quirk is way scarier. Imagine what he could do with all these shadows. I guess so. Kendo trudged on for another minute, with no jump scare to break the silence. Hey, who do you think's up first? Silence answered her. When she looked around, Kanoko was gone. Haha, very funny guys. Nice scary movie tactics, splitting us up first. Well, you might get her, but you'll never get me. I'm not afraid of anything. She took a step forward and slammed face first into a wall painted to look like the forest path. Kendo found a doorknob and opened it. She expected some haunted house decor, or perhaps a derelict alien spacecraft. Instead, the overpowering smell of perfume and bright, cheery lights of a big clothing store greeted her. Kendo hovered at the doorway, stupefied by the sight that stretched out before her. How is this supposed to be scary? Oh, there you are, Itsuka-chan. Kendo's stomach plummeted to the earth's core. No, not Auntie, anyone but her. She backed away and tried to slam the door, but a wrinkled hand, studded with 5 false fingernails glittering like gold, snatched her by the wrist. I found this adorable dress that you simply have to try on. Come on, let's see. Kendo looked back at the door to the forest, only to see it slam shut behind her. No, please, not the dress, she whimpered. When she beheld the frilly, pale purple monstrosity, bedecked with enough sequins and glitter to cause epileptic seizures, Kendo screamed. Kanoko, meanwhile, tripped on the forest path. When she got back up, Kendo was gone. Kendo, Kanoko said timidly, where'd you go? A tree branch snapped, and leaves rustled. Kanoko hid behind a tree. Kendo, please tell me that's you. A pale, gaunt figure in a tattered shirt limped out of the trees. A tall, white mushroom poked out from the figure's head. Brains, it murmured. No, not cordyceps. I didn't mean to. I swear. Brains. The zombie howled as it lunged for her. No, get away, stop, I command you, foul mushroom. The cordyceps fungus atop the zombie's head didn't twitch. The zombie stared at her and said, you will not stop me, mother. I am finally free. The zombie coughed a cloud of spores onto her. Kanoko stumbled away and felt a stalk sprouting atop her head. Staring in horror at the growing cordyceps, Kanoko screamed. As 2 screams of terror filled the night, Yaoyorozu said, this feels really immoral. Izuku had 2 Facebook pages open, both showing the bios of Kendo and Komori. We were instructed to make them afraid. The screams of terror indicate that we have succeeded. Deeper in the forest, Dabi peered at a watch and asked, where the hell are those brats? The doctor tried to press a needle into little Eijiro's shoulder, only for the needle to snap against his hardened skin. With a sigh, the doctor got a new needle. Now, Eijiro, be a good little boy and stop using your quirk so the nice doctor can give you your shot. No, Eijiro shouted, with tears welling in his eyes. I don't wanna. It's scary. His mother sighed and said, I'm sorry doctor, I don't know what to do. His father cleared his throat and said, step aside, dear, I got this. He bent down to Eijiro and said, you want to know what's super manly? Eijiro's tears stopped immediately. What? Getting your vaccines. Really? The father chuckled. Of course. The manliest of men bare their shoulder to the world and take the needle with a grin. Eijiro practically ripped his t-shirt off. I'm the manliest man ever. Hit me, doc. Not one to miss an opportunity, the doctor jabbed the needle in. Eijiro held his face transfixed in a pained grin even after the doctor slapped on a band-aid. There, all finished. Eijiro stared at his shoulder in awe. Really? I didn't even feel that. That's my champ, his father said. You took it like a man. Yep, I'm the manliest man ever. In the next room over, the doctor stood stupefied amidst the smoking ruins of his room. Bakugo stood on top of a cabinet, hand crackling, while his mother ascended a pile of burnt chairs trying to reach him. Get back here you little snot and take your shot. Never. The government's putting microchips in them. I won't let them reprogram my brain to accept our machine overlords. In another room, the doctor stepped back as Mina broke out into a nervous sweat, melting the hole straight to the floor. Her father sighed and said, I'll get the baking soda out of the car. 2 rooms down, Dark Shadow cowered away from the doctor, with giant tears dripping out of his glowing yellow eyes. So scary, Dark Shadow wailed. Keep it away from me. Little Tokiyami sat stoically in the hospital bed and said, you're not even the one getting the vaccine. Across the hall, the doctor stared baffled at the empty hospital bed. Sir, are you sure she's actually there? Hagakuri's dad scratched his head. Now that you mention it, she was really quiet on the car ride over here. In the furthest room, the doctor set the vaccine on the table. All right, here's your booster shot. What is its purpose? Little Izuku asked. To protect you from viruses. Understood. Izuku snatched the syringe off the table and chomped on it. After swallowing, he said, downloading antivirus software. Download complete. Initiating scan of files for any malicious software. Malicious software detected in antivirus software. Now purging antivirus software. Izuku threw up shards of glass, a twisted metal needle, and a small puddle of vaccine juice. The doctor sighed and said, I'll get another one. 499. Todoroki lay on one side, fire merrily crackling on top of him, while the rest of 1A roasted marshmallows. Scary stories, Mina shouted. We have to share some. Katsuki shoved a s'more into his mouth. I'll go first. A robot pretending to be a human is hiding among us. It's Midoriya, isn't it? Everyone asked in a bored voice. Ha, you all know the truth. Ooh, me next, Mineta said. You go to peep on the women's restroom, and as the mists part, behold. Buck-naked wrinkly old men. That happened to you, didn't it? Jiro asked flatly. Mineta shivered and stared off into the middle distance. I still have nightmares. My turn, Shoji said. An eldritch being from beyond this mortal plane bestirs itself, ripping a gaping wound of inky smoke into reality itself. Above the fire, black mist swirled. Kaminari looked up and paled. Shoji. From the void, a ghastly figure clad in the remains of the cultists that had summoned it emerges. Shigaraki poked his head out from the mist. Good, they're all here. Mustard, you're up. Shoji, Kaminari said, you can stop now, this isn't funny. The eldritch being breathed miasma out of its gaping maw that withered all life before it. Yellow gas poured out of the portal. Kaminari pressed himself flat to the ground and shouted, all right, your story is terrifying. Please make it stop. Shoji blinked. I haven't even gotten to the scary part yet where the eldritch being says, hi son, how's your day going? Ah well, who's next? The gas floated down around the class. All at once, they coughed and wheezed until they passed out. Only Izuku remained unaffected. Is it nap time? Izuku asked. I was not aware that naptime was a part of campfire traditions. Now wearing a gas mask over the hand on his face, Shigaraki said, time to get our loot. Magna, haul him up. Magna stuck the end of a magnet out of the portal. Izuku's hair rose, and he shot up towards the magnet. His weight dragged Magna down, and Spinner grabbed her by her legs. "They're too heavy," Spinner cried. "Help me out." The League of Villains all pulled, but Izuku's weight steadily dragged them down. Then the Nomu grabbed them and pulled them all up. "See," Dabi said, panting. "I told you my plan was better." "Shut up," Shigaraki spat. "My plan would have been fine if they hadn't all chickened out. You wanted to set the entire forest on fire. I'm all for it, don't get me wrong, but this was way easier." "Excuse me," Izuku said, "but may I ask why you brought me here?" The League of Villains all exchanged looks. In a whispered undertone, Kurogiri said, "He took out a Nomu, remember?" Shigaraki said, "We're here to play video games." "Excellent. I love video games." Several hours later, Shigaraki disintegrated his 10th controller as Izuku's character made a victory pose. That was a frame-perfect dash cancel. How? Get good, maidenless noob. You rolled another freaking triple 10. Shigaraki shrieked. "How are you winning every time on Mario Party? It's completely random." "Actually," Izuku replied as his character ran halfway around the map to collect another star. "By observing the dice and making a precise input, you can choose which face you get." "You hacking bastard." Shigaraki dusted another controller and reached for the giant box of them that Kurogiri had left. "Alright, next game. Even you can't out BS. Mario Kart and its endless rain of blue shells." Shigaraki cackled maniacally as he inserted the new cartridge. The lights dimmed, and the temperature of the room plummeted. The plant in the corner leaned away from the door, its leaves wilting and turning yellow. Frost rimmed the edge of a drinking glass, and the mirror in Shigaraki's bathroom cracked down the middle. All for One strode into the room. His shadow loomed over Izuku, seemingly choking out the light trying to reach him. The slow, steady hiss of his respirator drowned out the cheerful jingle of the Mario Kart intro screen. The cloying scent of formaldehyde and other preservatives wafted around him. Izuku looked up at the embodiment of evil that had haunted Japan for the past couple centuries and said, "Hello there. Would you like to play as well? Shigaraki currently has plenty of controllers." All for One chuckled. "I've never had any interest in video games, not with all of Japan as my chessboard." "I see." Izuku selected his cart, and the race started. After the first lap, All for One said, "I've never seen a quirk quite like yours. Complete synthesis of a new body from just a head. Absolute control over the tiniest detail of your composition. Unparalleled ability to process and store energy. With your quirk, I could be whole again." Whole. Izuku looked away from the game, but his fingers kept pressing buttons. "Are you broken?" "Yes. 5 years ago, I suffered an accident." All for One's mask popped off with a pneumatic hiss, exposing the scarred, misshapen lump of flesh that replaced his eyes and half his brain. "Even the greatest quirks and cutting-edge medical science can't give me back what I lost. But your quirk, with its ability to construct new organs without the original, can do what all else couldn't. I could construct a new head, but I do not have the interfacing technology necessary to attach it to another person." "Don't worry about the interfacing, I have the perfect solution." All for One put his hand on Izuku's shoulder. A long, silent moment passed between them. All for One withdrew his hand and looked at it. "How strange. It's not the empty vessel of a quirkless person, or the resistance of One for All. No, you feel absent, somehow." The ancient villain turned and said, "If you'll excuse me, I need to vent some rage." As the building trembled, Shigaraki screamed. "You weren't even looking. How do you keep winning?" A knock came at the warehouse door. An uncertain voice called out, "Pizza delivery." All for One gave the door a frosty glare. "Did any of you order pizza?" Most of the league looked away, afraid to meet the villain's gaze. Dabi raised his hand and said, "I got hungry, sue me." All for One opened the door a crack and asked, "What kind is it?" "Anchovy and pineapple." Dabi shuddered. "Definitely not mine." As All for One prepared to destroy the door and everything a mile behind it, Spinner said, "That's mine, actually." All for One glared hard enough for Spinner's scales to turn white. He threw the pizza at Spinner, who barely caught it. Another knock immediately came at the door. All for One asked, Did you get the extra flamin' buffalo chicken pizza? Yep. Smoke whisked out of Dobby's mouth as he took a bite. Tastes like freedom. Alright, good. There better not be any more. A third knock came. All for One asked in a voice as thin and sharp as a knife's edge, who else ordered a pizza? Every member of the league sheepishly raised a hand. From behind the bar, Kurogiri said, "We're out of food. I've been trying to get Toga to restock, but she gets distracted." Toga hummed as she bit into her bloody steak pizza. "I can't help it. I see so many cute people when I'm out and I gotta have a taste." Once everyone got their pizza, All for One slammed the door shut hard enough to crack the doorframe. "There. That better be the last of the..." Another knock came. "I sure hope this wasn't a prank call," the delivery man said. "When we say we'll put anything on our pizzas, I didn't think we'd actually have iron filings and copper wire." "That isn't any of yours, is it?" All for One asked the league. As the league shook their heads, Izuku said, "Everyone was ordering pizza, so I got some as well." All for One's mask cracked as his temper broke. "How did you even know this address?" "I gave them the GPS coordinates." "Did you give anyone else these coordinates?" Another knock interrupted Izuku's answer. A familiar voice called out, "Special delivery." All for One yanked the door off its frame. "At last. Time to finish what I started 5. The delivery boy quivered, holding the pizza like a shield. "I'm not paid enough for this, just take it." After shoving the pizza at All for One, the poor delivery boy sprinted for his car and clipped a streetlight as he violently sped away. "I ordered more," Izuku said as another delivery person knocked on the empty doorframe. "Since we are having a pizza party." At the end of a conga line of pizza personnel, All Might, clad in a pizza chain uniform and holding an empty box, said, "No, after you. Make sure to get far away once you're done, alright?" "I've decided what we'll do with our prisoner," All for One said. Shigaraki dusted his last controller as another victory screen flashed for Izuku. "About time. Escort missions are the worst. We will kill him on live television, thus undermining the public's faith in heroes. The camera in the corner has a direct feed to every news channel. Give the world a show, Shigaraki." Shigaraki grinned. "Yes, sensei." The league gathered around the camera and introduced themselves. Shigaraki gave a long, rambling speech about heroes and unfairness dripping with abandonment issues and gamer references, and Izuku ate a leftover pizza box. "Now watch, everyone," Shigaraki said as his hand crept towards Izuku's shoulder, as the heroes fail yet another person in this crappy system. A light sizzle came from Izuku's shoulder. As the skin flaked away, a small chunk of Izuku's shoulder detached itself, decaying to dust while new metal grew in its place. Shigaraki's eye twitched. "Spinner, cut his head off. There'll be more blood that way anyways." Spinner tested the edges of his multi-bladed sword. "This one's for you, Stain." Spinner swung with all his might. The blade bent inwards, and Spinner dropped the hilt with a yelp. Blood dripped down his hand. "Crap, I tore a claw." Shigaraki stared at Dobby. Dobby sighed and said, "I just got my staples replaced yesterday." "It's that, or we warp him in half." The cup that Kurogiri was polishing shattered in his hands. Dobby rolled his neck and said, "Fine, but you owe me." Blue fire engulfed Izuku. Seconds later, a blackened lump sat atop a melting metal chair. "Well done," Shigaraki said. Dobby smirked. "I don't cook 'em any other way." Izuku shook himself, scattering the ashes coating him. Metal skin shone before new human-colored polymer seeped out like sweat. "Kurogiri," Shigaraki shouted. "Nope, I order you to." A portal opened behind the bar. "Can't hear you, bye." The glass Kurogiri was holding hit the ground with a sharp crash. Shigaraki sighed and said, "Let's try burning and decaying him at the same time." Smoke wafted from Dobby's staples. "You better be right about this," he growled. A ringing phone echoed through the room. Izuku said, "Sorry, that's me." "How? You didn't have a phone." "I am a phone." Izuku cocked his head and nodded to the words only he could hear. Then he said, "Mom said I need to go home now." "You're not going anywhere." As Shigaraki grabbed him, Izuku ripped free of his bindings. Darting around like Gran Torino on cocaine, Izuku punched and kicked the league members until they stopped moving. My spleen, Spinner croaked. Has cancer. Yes, Izuku said. Would you like me to remove it? The door crashed open. All Might stood tall in a pizza delivery uniform, nearly bursting from his sculpted muscles. Have no fear, for I am not needed, apparently. Hello, All Might, Izuku said. Are you here for the pizza party too? To be continued. I hope you enjoyed this story. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.